We're right back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
I just look at this team and I see a talented roster without a lot of bad contracts.
Alongside Alex and Bradford on BK, that was Elliot Friedman a couple of weeks ago talking about the Blues, where they're at right now. He's excited about them. There is one national analyst, though, Alex. Not excited about what the Blues have done this offseason. There was an article posted earlier today, and I knew the moment that I saw it, I was like, I have a feeling I know the way this is going to go. Our guy Dom over at The Athletic.
My wife had a birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Katie. Why do we have to wake up the next morning to chaos? I don't like waking up in a bad mood.
The title of the article: which NHL teams improved the most this offseason? I scrolled down and I assume, because of the conversations that we've had so far, Alex, I'm not going to have to scroll too far, because the Blues have to be up there. We've made the case they've improved more than any other team in the Western Conference this offseason. Well, not according to this list. They've got the Nashville Predators as the most improved team in the West so far this offseason. In fact, they also have the Washington Capitals in the top three because of, primarily, a trade they made with you this offseason in acquiring Jordan Kyrou. Other Western Conference teams ahead of the Blues include the Winnipeg Jets, the San Jose Sharks, the Utah Mammoth, the Chicago Blackhawks, the Vancouver Canucks,
You could stop right
Seattle,
there.
Minnesota, Dallas, Calgary, LA, end of list. The Blues, according to Dom over at The Athletic, are 24th in the NHL in how much they've improved this offseason. In fact, he would say the opposite. He would say, according to his model, the Blues are worse today than they were at the end of last year by virtue of trading out Jordan Kyrou, getting rid of Jonathan Drouin, buying him out, and adding Mason McTavish, Connor McMichael, and Brandon Carlo. I have given you the information to do with it what you will, Alex. Blues, according to Dom, only 8 teams in the league have improved less than them or gotten worse more than them, depending on how you want to look at it.
Which, honestly, I can understand some of those.
What was your reaction to their placement on this list?
That it was a joke, but that shouldn't surprise anybody. But I mean, like, my proof is in the pudding when you just listed off these Western Conference teams. How is Vancouver an improved team over what the Blues have done this offseason? They haven't added anything. In fact, they're still trying to subtract.
Well, and you're correct, because they would argue the Blues have also subtracted this offseason.
Which is wild to me, considering one guy has come off of their roster and 3 players have come in. But even if you want to make that argument, what has Calgary done that has improved? Brought in Simone Nemec? You're telling me Simone Nemec?
Alex, I think you're missing the point here, actually.
How is that?
Because the argument here is not that the Blues, they've improved. It's that they have actively made their team worse. Like, what you're arguing for these other teams is true, and the model agrees with you. It agrees that those teams that you're talking about have gotten worse. They say that the Calgary Flames are worse today than they were at the end of last season.
But they got better than what the Blues did.
Correct. And that is because the Blues have actually removed more from their roster, again, according to this model. So that's what I wanted to get your reaction to. It's not so much their ranking as it is the idea that they are worse today by getting rid of Kyrou and adding McTavish, McMichael, and Carlo. Do you agree with that assessment?
No.
Do you think there's a case to be made in that area?
Yeah, if you're going off of just the analytics with Jordan Kyrou, I can understand that, and that's what Dom is, because Kyrou is an analytics darling. But I also watched Jordan Kyrou, and all of the analytics that you can put out there and say how fast he is and how much offense he creates, he didn't put the puck in the back of the net. Now, you're not going out there and getting guys that put the puck in the back of the net any I don't understand how you can say they got worse when you got rid of a guy who the team had made the playoff once in the last 4 years and bring in two guys that are unknown commodities that have had some success where they've played elsewhere. Now, Mason McTavish wasn't good last year, but the previous 2 years he was a fine player. Connor McMichael is essentially produced the way that Jordan Kyrou produced last season. Now, the analytics will tell you Kyrou was incredible, but in hockey, for me, I think it's a little more important to have the goals and the points that you put up. And that's what Connor McMichael did with Washington. And Brandon Carlo was the one for me, too. And he didn't even really mention it in his piece. It was more McTavish and McMichael over Kyrou. But that one for me is you got better defensively, which is what Jim Montgomery wants to do. So I understand what you're saying. Like, when I first saw it, my initial reaction is, how are you saying that Calgary got better? I know what you're saying, that they actively got worse than what those teams did. But yes, because we're going off of what last year was with McTavish, but I think you have to wait to see what these guys look like, because I saw what Kyrou looked like for 3 straight years, and yes, he could score 35 goals, but he also would disappear an awful lot and was a big root as to why the Blues wouldn't win hockey games. So I just can't agree with that sentiment when you look at some of these other teams and say, well, they got worse too, but the Blues were worse than them.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating view on this. I'm not saying it's right. I disagree with it. I've, again, mentioned it multiple times. I think they've improved as much as any team in the West. That's my personal view on the matter. I like seeing alternative views on this because it makes me revisit why I feel the way I do. And then I can decide if I still feel that way or not. But like, when I look at this, what it makes me wonder is, did the Blues improve as much as we think? Or is there a scenario where what they really did is just changed things? And we like the idea of change because we were sick of seeing the old core. I think what they've really done, Alex, this offseason is they've increased the range of outcomes for them this offseason. I think what you could have with McTavish could be really good. I think there's a scenario where we leave this season and say, you've got your number 1, number 2, and number 3 centers locked in, and you're good to go in that area, which is something we haven't really been able to say about the Blues since they had like Ryan O'Reilly and Tyler Bozak and that group of guys that were here in St. Louis. I think with Connor McMichael, there's a chance by the end of the season we say he's 80% of Jordan Kyrou, but a harder player to go up against, which makes him that much better when the games matter more. I think Brandon Carlo might be one of the most underrated additions of the offseason as a third pair defenseman who can be a glue guy for you back there. I think there's a chance of all of that. There's also a range of outcomes here, though, where Brandon Carlo just isn't good anymore. And last year you saw it with Toronto where his numbers dipped. And maybe he isn't the guy that he was with Boston and he was being carried by some of his teammates there. Maybe Connor McMichael, it was really just a 1-year great season and Washington's getting out while they can. And they got out a year early like the Blues did last year with Zach Bolduc. Maybe with Mason McTavish, he just is what he is. And he's a winger who plays hard, but is never going to be much of a distributor and doesn't play with the physicality that you'd hope for given his size. And you leave this season saying McMichael and McTavish are 2 third-line wingers, and now you've just got a glut of third-liners and no real capable second-line players on the current active roster. I think there's a scenario where that's the case. And I think that's the idea behind what this model is suggesting is they're taking in Kyrou's already a guaranteed write-it-in-pin top 6 winger, and these guys may never become that, which gets you to where they're talking
and that's
about.
the part that I just disagree with.
And there's a fair argument otherwise.
Somebody, Cottleville Comover, texted in and said, I'm with you guys, but the argument, I think, is that the 2 ifs we added are question marks. Absolutely, but to me, Jordan Kyrou was a big if this upcoming season. If he was still on this roster, every conversation we were going to have is if Jordan Kyrou gets back to his 30-goal potential, if Jordan Kyrou can be an 80-point performer. I would much rather, and you're right, like I think people are excited for change, just like they were with the Cardinals, where you were excited for change. I think you're living on ifs with McTavish and McMichael, but I'm going off of something that I haven't seen, and there's potential, and I trust the development staff of the Blues, as I've seen with a lot of these younger players in their system, versus bringing back the same guy that has been here for 4 or 5 years, and you've still had the ifs, if he can take it to the next level, if he can take it to the next level. That was just as much of an if not a bigger if, because the longer you went with Jordan Kyrou, and he didn't live up to that potential, the less likely likely you were to be able to get what you got back in return for Kyrou is?
Please don't get mad at me for asking the question I'm about to ask, okay?
Well, Dom did put me in a sour mood, but I'll do my best.
How did you feel about Pius Suter's season last year?
I thought he performed to expectations.
What would you say those expectations were?
Double-digit goal scorer, really good defensively, and middle six player that could be a versatile piece for you.
But realistically speaking, on a contender, where does he probably belong?
Third or fourth line.
Okay. The reason that I ask that is because Pius Suter, prior to coming here to St. Louis in the previous 2 seasons, 25 goals, 46 points, and 14 goals, 29 points. Previous 2 seasons for Connor McMichael, prior to coming here to St. Louis, 25 goals, 50 points, 18 goals, 33 points. Overall, -1. Overall for Pius Suter on those 2 years with Vancouver, who wasn't very good in that stretch, +19. Mason McTavish over the last couple of years, 17 goals, 41 points, and 22 goals, 52 points. Overall in that stretch, -15. I'm not telling you those guys are going to come in here to become Pius Suter. But what I am saying is Pius Suter had also come off of a really good season the year prior to signing here in St. Louis, and really a couple of years back-to-back with Vancouver, where he was one of the best players on their roster. Connor McMichael, Mason McTavish have a lot of questions still about their games and whether or not any of their success is going to be sustainable long-term, and if they're going to take that next step in their respective careers. Now, the age is different. Pius Suter was 29. These guys that we're talking about are 26 and 23, respectively. So that does play a factor here, but there's no guarantees they take that next step in their respective careers. And if we were, let's say we're Washington fans today, and in this hypothetical scenario, we have traded, as Washington fans, Mason McTavish and Connor McMichael for Jordan Kyrou. I think we would be taking the opposite view, where we would be saying, oh my God, we got rid of 2 guys that were negatives for us. They were dashes for us the last few seasons in Washington. And in return, we get a guy that over the last 4 seasons prior to a bad year in St. Louis last year was 27, 37, 31, 36, and 70 points consistently for St. Louis. If we can get him back to that in a better situation here, we have improved tremendously with a potential elite player. And I think it's a little harder to argue that either McTavish or McMichael have that upside of becoming elite players for this team.
Yeah, McTavish, I don't have an argument for. I mean, he underwhelmed for Anaheim. They never were able to crack him. The only argument I could have is he's 23 years old. And I'll take a chance on the 23-year-old who was put into a position with a bad team at 19 when he was drafted 3rd overall to say, fix my bad team. And there's a lot of pressure that goes on that. Now, McMichael, I can explain that one a little bit more because last season, McMichael, he was used as a center. And I think primarily he was viewed as a center, but he went off when he was a winger. And then they had to go back to him as a center last year because of Luke Dubois and Dylan Strome's injury. So that's why I look at McMichael and say he's not a center, he's a winger. And that's a guy that I think can produce to the similarities that he's been over time. But you're right. Like if I'm Washington, I'm celebrating it. But I'm also asking the question, why did they give up on that guy?
Because they needed change.
Yeah. And you ask, like, what goes on with this player? Like, I have question marks about Kyrou if I'm Washington.
Absolutely.
Whereas I think it's up front with McTavish and McMichael where it's like, hey, it didn't work out for those guys. There's a change of scenery. As the team that's getting rid of them, yeah, that's an asset that wasn't any good for us. Look, we scratched the guy in the playoffs. McMichael wasn't what he was. It was a fluke year. But as the team that's bringing that in, it's like that's the change of scenery that we've seen work in the past for a lot of guys. Whereas when you trade a guy away for one bad year, sure, it's a change of scenery, but you ask the question, why would they give up on that guy?
And it's a fair question. I just think that it goes both ways,
yeah.
Right? Like if we've got those questions about Kyrou, they should also exist. Why are the Anaheim Ducks willing to get rid of Mason McTavish at $6 million a year as a 23-year-old former top 5 overall selection when they've still got him committed after just giving him a long-term deal? Why would they get rid of that guy? I wouldn't. If that guy was on my team, I'd be holding on to him like a precious resource and saying, why would we possibly get rid of this guy when his value might be as low as it's ever going to be? Why not run it back with him and see what it looks like a year from now? I think that's a fair question to ask if you're a Blues fan. Why would the Washington Capitals get rid of a player like Connor McMichael and view it as a necessity to upgrade from him with Alex Tuck and Jordan Kyrou. Why would they view it that way? Now, the Carlo thing, I think, is just completely different. God only knows what's going on in Toronto. But with those other two players, there are questions with them just as there were with Jordan Kyrou. And I think when you look at a model like this, and this is not a fan opinion, this is his model, it's all the numbers coming out and telling you the Blues are worse today than they were at the end of last season. I disagree with that, just as I disagreed with a lot of the projections for the Cardinals coming into this season, and I was mocked for it because I think consensus in St. Louis is that the Cardinals were going to be dreadful. Consensus in St. Louis is the opposite, as it typically is for the Blues, where expectations are much higher for them than they were for the Cardinals. That doesn't mean that it works out that way. I was also the low man on the Blues last year. It went poorly for them, as we all saw. So I think it's worthwhile to take some time to view, all right, what are the negatives here? How could this thing go awry? And I think this model gives you a little bit of an indication on why, even if I disagree with it.
I think the easiest way for me to say it is I don't believe the Blues got worse. I believe the Blues are just as questionable this year as they were last year. And I think there was confidence last year because of what they did versus Winnipeg, and you expected Kyrou to be the same. And last season was a lot of, this was just the assurance from so many Blues fans that Kyrou's just too inconsistent for them. And that's where the change comes in. I also put value in. I put more value in the locker room stuff than what most do. And I don't think Kyrou was a problem in the locker room, but I do think that plays into their mindset of we're switching things to a different focus of guys we think might mesh well with our younger group. So there's a lot of ifs that go into this, but as I said earlier, I think there were a lot of ifs with Jordan Kyrou, just like you're going to have ifs with Pavel Buchnevich and an if with Jake Neighbors to see if he gets back to that level. I just do think change for change's sake works most times, especially when you're getting younger players that you can still mold the way you want them to.
I love the way they've operated. I think they've done an excellent job this offseason of changing the look of the team, changing the feel of the team, and making them harder to play against. I just think that the alternative view is worthwhile.
But come on, Calgary didn't get better than the Blues. It's a trash list, Dom. It's a trash list, Dom. They're trying to tank.
Alongside Alex and Bradford on BK, we will get to some Detroit sports fans who are thrilled to move on from Steve Yzerman. We'll let you hear some of their reaction from their sports radio up in Detroit later on today. We will hear from Keith Law as well coming up in the 12 o'clock hour. We want to hear from you. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. YouTube chat ready to go at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. But coming up next, who is the key player beyond J.J. Weatherholt and Jordan Walker for the Cardinals in the second half of the season? We'll give you our take on that next here on 101 ESPN.
You can now listen to 101 ESPN on demand. Get caught up on all our shows and podcasts at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 mobile app. 101 ESPN podcasts are presented by the Schaefer Door Company. is exactly where you want to be listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Alongside Alex and Bradford, I'm BK. So earlier today, I opened up Cardinals.com.
Were you as angry as I was when I opened up my phone and saw Dom's piece?
No, I was not.
Oh, okay.
No, I was not. One of our friends, Will Leach, put together a piece on what will determine the Cardinals' plans at this year's deadline. And Alex, I thought part of this was really interesting. He broke down who he believes the key player is for the Cardinals in the second half. He said Mason Wynn is the easy answer here. His defense remains platinum glove quality, but he's shown some regression offensively in each of his 3 full seasons at the majors. He showed improvement at the plate in June and the first part of July, though, and if he can just get back to being a league average hitter, he'll be an all-star caliber player who could be the next centerpiece as the team continues to build. Now, I don't think he's a centerpiece. I think he can be an accent piece, though, and you've built your centerpieces in J.J. Weatherholt and Jordan Walker. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. YouTube chat is at youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. As I think through this, Alex, the obvious answers for key players in the second half are J.J. and Jordan. But let's set them aside because we're going to be talking about them for hopefully the next decade. Beyond that, who would you put as your nominee for this category? Key player for the second half.
It's funny because they said the easy answer was Mason Wynn, and I think a lot of people on the text line I saw mention Mason Wynn. Mine, I immediately went to Ivan Herrera. And it's weird to say because the dude's getting on base at a 40% clip, but his power's not there. And I think when I looked at the Cardinals this season, I assumed Jordan Walker wasn't going to be this. The power was Burleson and Ivan Herrera. And Burleson has provided that power this season. Ivan Herrera, although still has 11 home runs, is a 390 slug. And I mean, he typically, I don't know, last year was kind of that jumping off point for him, but in only 107 games, he had a 464 slug. That's more in line with what I thought Ivan Herrera was. So to me, I think the way this team continues to have success is by their offense. And you put Jordan Walker and J.J. Weatherholt aside. So without them, I look to the next source of power. And I think it's Ivan Herrera. If Ivan Herrera can play every game the rest of the way, which he's done 95 so far, which is amazing, if you can get that guy to about a 420, 430 slug, I think your offense takes another step forward and you're a more dangerous team.
And let's be honest as well, you don't expect in the second half of the season Ivan Herrera to bat 249. He's a guy who's going to hover between 285 and 300, to say nothing of the power potential. What I find interesting is the nomination there, BK, of Wynn, because I don't necessarily look at this individual as somebody who over the course of the first 3 seasons in the majors has really regressed necessarily from an offensive standpoint. I think now you really pose the question of, are we talking about that outlier in the power department that we saw as a rookie, the 15 home runs? Because if you look at everything else, OBP, all of the underlying numbers, they're basically right in line with what he posted as a rookie. The exception being the pop. So
Yep.
I don't see it as regression. I see it as maybe you had your outlier in year 1. Is he going to get back to that point?
It's entirely possible. And if that's the outlier season, it will force some conversations on what is the value of Mason Wynn. That doesn't mean he's a bad player, but it may mean that he's not quite as valuable as we previously expected. And maybe he's somebody that you can get on a pretty reasonable contract long term if you want to go that route. But that's a different conversation for a different day. For mine, I'm going to go with Matthew Liberatore. I know that sounds strange because I don't think any of us are particularly excited about Matthew Liberatore in the second half. I think there's every bit as good of a chance that he finishes the season in the bullpen as there is that he finishes the season as a top 3 starter for the Cardinals. But if they're going to be good, I think he's got to be good. I think he's the one that unlocks the potential for this rotation. Because if Dustin May sticks around, if Michael McGreevy simply continues to do what he's done, and you have Matthew Liberatore performing the way that he did there in the month of May, where he went in 6 starts, 30 innings, and had 38 strikeouts and only 12 walks, 2.7 fielding independent ERA, and a sub-4 overall ERA, that's the kind of pitcher who can give you a month stretch where you're like, all right, this is a really good middle of the rotation starter. If not him, though, I don't know who gives you that. Palante's been fine. Leahy's been fine, but I don't think you feel that way about either of them as they're starting. Libby could potentially bring that for you. And if they can get that, plus maybe call up Quinn Matthews in spot of one of the other two guys, now you're feeling really good about where the rotation is at. So I think for me, it's Matthew Liberatore. He feels like the bellwether in this rotation. When he's good, the rotation feels good. And when he's bad, boy, it feels like you've got a donut hole in that rotation right now.
Yeah, I feel like that's the best one out of your pitching options because you're right. I think he's the only one. And on the pitching side of things, that's what really can raise the ceiling a little bit more when you get that consistency with it. So I do think Matthew Liberatore is going to be in the spotlight for the first 2 weeks back leading up to that trade deadline because, man, it feels like you're competing for a spot to remain where you're at with Quinn Matthews kind of on the heels of this rotation and depending on what they do with Dustin May. So I really like that one. And I think there's a lot more on the offensive side than the pitching side of things.
So I've got a question for you. This was just posted by Jeff Jones over on his new website, Words About Birds. How Andre Palante's breakout season impacts the Cardinals at the trade deadline. Can his breakout season be repeated? If not, it may be time for a tough decision. He asks the question, is Andre Palante a compelling deadline option for the Cardinals? Do you think there could be another team that would be interested in Andre Palante at the trade deadline? Don't forget, this season, it's actually been quite good for the Cardinals. Has a 3.9 ERA so far this season. Has been an above league average pitcher with 1.5 wins above replacement. And has won 10 games already for the Cardinals. Do you think a team would potentially take him on?
I don't think so, no. Maybe a team that's really desperate for pitching, and if the market doesn't have a whole lot of starting pitchers, then they would turn to this. But to me, and this sounds super negative, and I don't mean it to be, but I feel like all of that's a little bit of an illusion. I think Andre Palante is a very good pitcher at Busch Stadium and a very good pitcher with the Cardinals with that elite defense. I mean, they have the best middle infield defense in Major League Baseball. And I think other teams, when they're looking for pitching upgrades when it comes to postseason runs, you're looking for swing and miss stuff. And Palante is not that. Now, maybe they view Palante and say, hey, this dude could be elite for us in our bullpen, and then move him to a starting pitcher next year or put him back in that role for us. But no, I don't think he's going to be attractive enough to another team that would benefit the Cardinals enough in the return, if that makes sense.
This is a really interesting one. He's going to get expensive soon. He's making $4 million this year. It's the second year of arbitration. He's got 2 years left in ARB. Now, the system may change. Who knows? But assuming that everything remains the same, which is all you can do right now, he'll probably be $8 to $10 million next year as a starter. How you feeling about that as a Cardinals fan? Good? Bad? Indifferent?
Indifferent, because I feel like that's cheap for the back end if I still need to fill some holes.
Agreed.
But if I got better options, I'd rather not pay him $8 or $10 million.
Arbitration year 4, probably $15 million. How you feeling about that?
Too expensive.
Not feeling great, right? So this is probably when you can get the value, is you trade him this deadline, and a team looks at it as we've got a year and a half left on him and potentially signing him to an extension right there. There are teams that are desperate for pitching. I mean, you look at what the Milwaukee Brewers have been doing with their rotation recently. They literally just traded for Lance McCullers, who's been awful for like 3 years, and they're trying to make it work. Atlanta, you look at what they've got in their rotation right now. They keep trying to re-sign and release Carrasco. There are a lot of contenders across Major League Baseball that would love to have Andre Palante as their 4th or 5th starter. You're not going to get a superstar for him, but could you get a similar return to what you got for like Phil Maton a year ago at the trade deadline, where you got Mason Molina, who is now making his way through your system and looks like a pretty intriguing starting pitching prospect? Maybe. And in such a scenario, I don't know. I think you could make a case for almost every one of the Cardinal starters as a trade deadline acquisition, not named Michael McGreevy.
Yeah.
You can make the case for May. You could make the case for Palante, as we just did. Libby, not hard at all to make the case for, and even Kyle Leahy. If somebody wanted to take him on, I could see the case to do so.
It goes to what Curbs told us yesterday, what Bobby Plager used to said, like the best value that players have is, before they
always move on a year too early.
Before they become what they are. And that might be what this is, man. If this is the best Andre Palante looks, and next year he's back to being a guy that you're just trying to get rid of, you want to pay $8 million for that? Like, if you got to fill a void, sure, but I don't think you're going to be in that position next year. So I just wonder if the Cardinals are going to say, we are not going to get the return for Andre Pallante that justifies us trading Andre Pallante for what he is for us now and potentially next year.
Breaking news in Major League Baseball.
Andre Pallante was just traded. Damn it.
No. The Cincinnati Reds have come to an agreement with all-star pitcher Chase Burns. It's a 7-year, $105 million extension. Deal includes no options, no deferrals, largest guarantee to a pitcher with less than 4 years of service time in Major League Baseball history. That coming from Ken Rosenthal and John Morosi. Chase Burns is awesome.
Yeah.
The guy this year has a 2.5 ERA and 18 starts with the Cincinnati Reds. The way teams are operating, Alex,
everyone's locking up players because they
sure seems to tell you they think these pre-arb deals are going to change in the new system.
Yep.
I don't know what else could potentially change, but it sure seems like they're expecting fewer years of club control to start things off. I've got one theory on this and how it could apply locally. That changes completely the talk about Jordan Walker.
Yeah.
If Jordan Walker, you're actually going to end up, and I don't know how this would work with is it grandfathered in if they're close to arb year? I don't know. But if something changes in the way that you have control over these players, I wonder if that gives you even more incentive if you're in Chaim Bloom's shoes to get something done with Walker early in this offseason before you get to that place.
Yeah, that's the only reasoning I could think of is these teams know what's coming next year, and they're trying to lock up these players as much as possible. And to me, it's not a coincidence that they did that with J.J. Weatherholt, where they're like, look, we want to get this guy locked up and not worry about what the future is going to look like. It also makes me wonder what happens with Jordan Walker moving forward.
Alongside Alex Ferrario and Bradford Bruns, I'm Brandon Kiley. Coming up in the 12 o'clock hour, we'll be joined by Keith Law, Major League Baseball analyst. Want to get his thoughts on the trade deadline outlook for the Cardinals and also what he thought about their draft. It sure seems as though everybody loves what the Cardinals were able to add. We'll get his impression on that coming up at 12 o'clock. But next, I want to listen to some Detroit sports talk radio. Coming off of yesterday, big day for them. They decide to move on from the Yzer plan. How are they reacting in Detroit? Well, I would say they're thrilled. We'll get into that next here on 101 ESPN.
Get social with 101 ESPN. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads, Blue Sky, and YouTube at 101 ESPN.
Wait a minute. Before you spend money on a major repair or replacement of your HVAC system, get a free second opinion from Classic Air Care. Their experienced technicians will inspect your system, explain your options clearly, and help you make the right decision for your home and your budget. Classic Air Care has over 100 Penguin vans on the road. Ask about Classic Air Care's same-day service. Classic Air Care. Honest answers, expert service, and your free second opinion from ClassicAirCare.com.
Start your day with the morning after on 101 ESPN. Get in the know first on everything St. Louis sports with Tim McKernan, Doug Vaughn, and Martin Kilcoy. Listen to TMA weekday mornings from 7 to 11 a.m. on 101 ESPN. The morning after is presented by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
MLB's second half begins in earnest. Good morning, I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is delivered by Universal Windows Direct. Citizens Bank Park remains the center of baseball's universe for at least one more evening. NL East rivals Philadelphia and New York clashing about 7 hours from now. Ollie Marmol's Cardinals, along with basically everyone else, must wait until tomorrow. Game number 96 unfolding out west. Redbirds Diamondbacks first pitch slated for 8:40 p.m. Next hour, the NHL will release its complete regular season schedule. San Jose hits Enterprise Center on October 8th, which marks STL's home opener. This Sports Center update was powered by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Day in Detroit yesterday as they decided to move on from the Yzer plan. Steve Yzerman out as president and general manager of the Detroit Red Wings. Probably a little overdue in my estimation. Alongside Alex and Bradford, I'm BK. I went back and listened to some 97-1 The Fan up in Detroit, Alex.
Oh, gosh.
To get their take on the situation. Wanted to see how they're feeling about this. And I was a little surprised, I suppose. No sympathy, no empathy. We're ready to move on in every possible way. Let's go ahead and take a listen to a few different quotes from the station. We start with their midday show.
I feel no sympathy. I feel no human empathy. I feel nothing. Because for 7 years, this guy didn't act like a human being. And for 7 years, he basically thumbed his nose at everybody. And he sat here and organized one of the singular worst rebuilds in all of professional sports. 7 years, no playoff appearances, no wins, and now your captain wants out. Yeah, awesome. And the fact that it happened now, it does lend itself to speculation, and I allow it. Hell, I'm all for it. This only reaffirms where I'm at. Burn this mother down. Burn it down, baby. Larkin, DeBrincat, I'd knock on Raymond and Sider's door. What are you guys up for here the next 3 years? You want to lose? You want to win? What do you want to do?
We're just going to start all over again.
Just
prospects.
Burn it down. But the problem? You missed the draft. You missed the draft. Right.
Jesus. I don't know if I'd be going to Raymond and Sider right now.
I guess they're ready to just completely restart this thing.
I get it. I mean, I do agree with the fact of, like, you should have fired. If you were going to do this, fire him prior to the draft. Fire him prior to the Dylan Larkin saga becoming an issue. Because now, the moment they got rid of him, I assumed, oh, okay, this is trying to mend the wound so Dylan Larkin will stay. Why didn't you do that at the end of the season? And you could have probably mended it more and found a way to keep some guys. And guess what? Use the assets to try and do something at the draft rather than sit there and be like, oh, well, we'll draft and keep on chugging forward.
So clearly not thrilled with the Yzer plan and ready for something different. Who does he want to take over the team? Take a listen.
I don't want anyone who's been here. Because, frankly, no one here deserves to be here.
I was about to say, what if you can get Lidstrom to come back from Sweden?
No.
Okay.
I don't want any of them. I would treat it like jury selection. I want people who don't even know who Yzerman is. I want something new wave. I want someone who is going to catch up to where hockey is. Because this guy has been rooted in 2010. Oh, I don't like the players have power. Wah. I don't like term. Wah. I don't like paying guys market value. Wah. Trade values are high. Wah. And all we did was sit here. The Red Wings, essentially, the winged wheel, one of the crown jewels of the NHL and one of the iconic franchises in all sports, has been treated like a cold chicken breast in the Tupperware, and it's day 7 in the fridge. Ooh. That's what this rebuild under Yzerman is.
Damn, what a comp. Somebody was familiar with keeping chicken in the fridge for 7 days. What, you're not?
No, I don't know.
No, yeah. Are you kidding me? You think me, who won't eat certain things, is going to put chicken in there for 7 days?
Not a chance.
I disagree with that one. Like, I wouldn't sit here and say I don't want anybody associated with the organization. Like him saying...
I get the feeling, though. Like, if the Cardinals came to you after the Mo era and said, hey, Randy Flores is taking over. Or, hey, Michael Gersh is now in charge. Or Moises Rodriguez is in charge.
Yeah.
You think Cardinals fans would have been thrilled about that? I think they wanted something different.
But I think it's
new
because
and
they were brought up through Mo and it would be attached to him. Like, I don't think hockey's different in the sense, like, I think you could get a guy that has just a different mindset. The thing about it is him saying, I want a new age person. Who is that? Look around hockey.
I've listened to a lot of Detroit radio in the last 24 hours. He's saying he wants somebody from Carolina.
Oh, well, so you want analytics.
Yeah.
Which, guess what? Like, as much as you want analytics, the reason Tulsky works in Carolina is because you have old school Rod Brindamore who says this player works for me.
Fair. You need both. Like, you know me, I like the numbers, but I will never say you should take them at, like, face value and only use them. It's obviously something where you need a little bit of everything.
For sure. And like, that's what I think the misconception is, like, you need to have either an analytics general manager or an old school general manager. All of these teams have analytic departments.
Correct.
Nashville just hired Colorado's general or assistant GM, Chris McFarland, brought him in. And then they got a guy from Pittsburgh who was basically a cap guru for the Penguins and brought him in to be the assistant GM. So that's the part that I disagree with. I actually think because Detroit has such a rich history, you have some interesting options you could go with. I would not be opposed to Nick Lidstrom as my general manager. Like, I want a guy who understands hockey. And not saying Steve Yzerman didn't, but I do agree. Steve Yzerman was more of the, like, crusty old curmudgeon that was, oh, yeah, these guys shouldn't have so much trust, and I'm going to hold on to them. That doesn't work in the game anymore.
Is Lidstrom that way?
I don't think so. I think Lidstrom's more... the European side, I think, is more in tune with that. The other one that I'd be really interested in is Chris Draper. He was working underneath Steve Yzerman, and I know people will say, it's like, oh, well, I don't want the guy that worked underneath him. You don't think Chris Draper just saw everything that went wrong with Steve Yzerman and was like, oh, I could probably do things a little different?
I don't know. That's the thing, is like, we just don't know from the outside looking in, but I get the idea of not wanting anybody that's attached to Yzerman and just wanting a fresh start to get away from what the last 7 years have been there.
I get that. My retort is, then who are you going after? Because you can't say I want somebody from Carolina.
You know how this is. Like, we didn't know that Chaim Bloom was going to be the next guy here in St. Louis until it became clear that he was. I always feel that way with general manager hires. We simply don't know what the roles are within these organizations, and we don't really know who's going to work until afterwards. I would have expected Buster Posey would have been good at this. Yeah. He's been a disaster so far in San Francisco, so I don't know.
Hockey's different, too, for me, because there is such there's such a investment put in on that locker room chemistry, and the former players have that pulse. But I just feel like you can't just say I want somebody from Carolina, because some of the guys in Carolina, you just don't know if they have the GM experience. I would also listen to the idea of a former agent as a general manager. Sure. With Bill Zito and Kent Hughes doing what they've done with Florida and Montreal, I do think that's an upper hand teams can have in some conversations moving forward.
All right, so what led to the dismissal? Why now? Was it Larkin? Was it something that happened behind the scenes? What happened? Here's a caller up in Detroit.
Tim is next on 97.1. Hello, Tim.
There was a clip a few years back on TNT where they were interviewing Yzerman in between periods, and he basically said, without saying, he smokes a nice one, every once in a while to relax. Do you think maybe he was on Devil's Lettuce a little too much? He was a little too passive, perhaps.
What? What, think that they're high?
You think that was a factor?
No. What? Do we think that Steve Yzerman struggled because he's a pothead? Is that what you just asked us? No. No, I don't. And did he admit that? I feel like if he admitted that, are you on the Devil's Lettuce? Are you the pothead? What?
All right. Well, there's that.
No.
All right, well, there's that.
If we had more callers like that, we'd take a lot of calls.
I was going to say, step up your game, callers. We need more of that. Open it up. We need more of that when you call.
Can you imagine? There's somebody, the producer, Bradford's behind the glass in this scenario, and he writes on our little teleprompter thing, hey, we've got Tim on the line. He thinks Yzerman was high. Put him on!
He's a priority.
Get it out!
Immediately.
We got to go to break, BK. No, we don't!
He tells us that in break. Why didn't you tell us that earlier? Oh, God. No, I don't think.
Gold, Jerry, gold.
No, I don't think he was on the devil's lettuce. Also, why are we assuming him saying I smoked a good one was the devil's lettuce? Couldn't that have been like a cigar or something?
Nope, not
Not
for
in this
Tim.
scenario.
Tim said nope.
Nope, this guy's bad at what he does because he smokes the devil's lettuce.
Incredible. Coming up in 15 minutes, Keith Flaw joins the show to break down the Cardinals draft and to discuss where they're at right now with their farm system and their plans going into the deadline. But next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Questions and answers here on 101 ESPN. That is good weed.
It's a weekend MLB doubleheader Saturday. Yankees and Dodgers. First pitch at 7:08. Then Sunday it's Game 2. First pitch at 6:20. The MLB plays on 101 ESPN. Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. You've got questions, we may have the answers. Maybe. It's BK and Ferrario's questions and answers on 101 ESPN.
Response to the last segment from the 618. If you're just tuning in, God bless you. I hope you go back on the podcast page to understand the context
Otherwise,
of this
you are
question.
confused.
Guys, I think it's pretty well known Yzerman smokes weed. The Chicklets guys bring it up all the time. I don't know that to be true. Want to say that up front? Full disclosure, I don't know. If he does, good for him. I've got no issue with it, whatever. Alex, if you could smoke weed with one person in sports, who would it be?
Well, let me preface this by saying I don't smoke weed, Brandon. But if I could, I don't think it's going to be a star player. I think it's going to be somebody that would tell me some incredible stories. Like, I think mine might be Paul Bissonnette. I think mine might be Paul Bissonnette to just sit and have conversation with him. Or it would be one of those glue guys, those enforcers, those guys like Kelly Chase or Tony Twist or, you know, any of those guys that read low, like those guys that were around it in the golden era of hockey.
I feel like Cody Bellinger would.
You think he partakes?
I don't know.
Well, let's preface this again by we are speculating here. We're not saying anything.
I will just say it wouldn't come as a surprise to me if it was revealed that he did.
So being an All-Star Game MVP has its perks.
So here's the story according to the Chicklets podcast. The story of Yzerman and smoking weed comes from a prank he pulled on NHL draft prospect Kirby Dach. Dach revealed on the Chicklets podcast that Yzerman intensely grilled him during his 2019 pre-draft interview, claiming teammates said Dach smoked weed.
Okay.
So the whole pipe or whatever reference that they made of Yzerman, it wasn't that he did it. It was he grilled a player about it.
So I'm going to guess he probably doesn't. If he's grilling a player.
If you've heard Steve Yzerman talk at all in media pieces, the guy does not do it.
All right, from the 636. Boy, since you're on the air from 11 to 2 every day, what do you do about lunch? Do you have something during the breaks? Do you eat right before the show, right after the show? Which would you ruin if eating schedule for the day? Yeah, so it's tough. We have an unbelievable job. I will not complain about talking about sports for a living. It's incredible. I can't believe we get paid to do this. But yeah, the schedule for lunch is not exactly ideal.
Yeah.
It changes, but most of the time I eat right after.
Yeah.
There are some days, like if I'm going to the gym after the show, I will eat toward the end of our show so I can just get straight to the gym. But yeah, it's typically right after the show.
Yeah, I mean, my girls are so funny because, you know, they eat lunch at like 11:30 with Katie, and when I get home from work, I come home and make a sandwich and eat something, and they're like, what are you doing, Daddy? And I'm like, I'm eating lunch. Like, we ate lunch a while ago. It's weird, though. This like schedule, when it's not hockey season, is tougher for me than the Blues schedule, because Blues games, I don't go home. I just basically stay out until the game. So, like, for Blues games, I do the show, I'll go down to the gym, and then I eat my lunch/dinner afterwards. So I'm having 2 meals a day. The non-hockey season is the one where it's like, yeah, you eat lunch and then you kind of adapt to not eating for a couple of hours.
I think Tanner and I probably need to have a serious conversation because the hours, they're all over the place. Maybe during the course of this week, obviously, I'm with you guys, have the opportunity to have the midday shift, but then it could be, 7 p.m. through 1 a.m. So we need to get down to brass tacks when it comes to eating better, because my palate is probably about as extensive as Luke is right now as well, BK. I'm not even kidding. Yeah.
I went about 15 years without eating breakfast and always eating lunch and dinner, and now I can't go without eating breakfast, and I just don't eat lunch.
From the 314, BK, were you implying in the last segment that the next MLB CBA could make young players free agents earlier? What is the cause for teams to lock them up now? Please clarify. Yeah, so there's been some speculation. We obviously do not know what the next CBA is going to bring, but there's been some speculation that, especially in the event of a cap, you could see teams have fewer years of club control on players. So instead of getting the full 6 or 7 years that you currently have, maybe it would be 5 years or 4 years like you see in the NBA, NHL, NFL for rookie entry-level deals. And in that event, it's unknown what that would mean for current players in the league, and if they would have a year of arbitration chopped off, or if they would just continue along with their current deals. So that's what I was referencing there. We don't know what the outlook looks like for that.
But it is a bit suspicious of why you're seeing all of this start to happen from the beginning of this season all the way up until now.
From the 636, what's your guys' favorite fast food burger chain?
Culver's.
Good answer. I'll go Five Guys probably. Yeah.
I like Wendy's. Wendy's does it for me.
Wendy's is good.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line.
I thought BK was going to say, I don't eat fast food.
For questions and answers from the 314. Have you guys gotten your ratings recently? Were they good? I hope so.
Thanks for your concern, I guess.
I will say this. Having worked in a different market, a couple other ones, Houston and Kansas City, St. Louis sports radio has absurd ratings compared to most other markets in America. Like what 101 gets here, and this is not just us, but the whole station, is like double what we would get in Kansas City, what was considered to be good. It's also helpful that we're on an FM station as opposed to an AM, which is what we were in Kansas City. They have now since switched over to the FM side. But yeah, ratings are pretty good right now. They've been relatively stable over the last few years, but we're always looking to increase them. So tell your friends about us and Make sure that you guys are downloading, subscribing, rating the podcast, checking us out on YouTube, all of that stuff.
That's been the biggest one is the spike in numbers on socials when it comes to all of the digitals.
On digital,
yeah. You all have been crushing it there, so please keep up that work because love seeing the numbers continue to go skyrocket on that one.
YouTube's huge, man. Every streaming platform is great, but a lot of people are moving over to YouTube. I'm sure you've seen this with other podcasts as well. It's real. The video stuff is a significant part of it. And let's be honest, man, ultimately, this is a business. And like we are in it for our salaries, but Hubbard Radio is in it to make money, right? Like that's ultimately what this is about. And the ability to have a new revenue source is a really big deal for radio in general. Just like for newspapers 20 years ago, they had to pivot to doing more stuff online, and then they get into podcasts, they get into video, all these different things. Radio's doing the same thing, and that's what YouTube has become. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Keith Law. He is a Major League Baseball analyst, previously worked in a front office, and he breaks down the draft and prospects for the Athletic. He's going to join us to discuss what he thought of the Cardinals draft, how he currently views their pipeline, and how they're set up for the deadline. We'll talk to Keith Law about all of that next here on 101 ESPN.
Need more Blues talk? Check out the Last Minute Blues podcast with Alex Ferrario, Donnie Fandango, and Jeremy Rutherford on 101 ESPN. The guys bring you the latest news and notes on your St. Louis Blues. Watch or listen to the Last Minute Blues podcast on our YouTube channel or at 101ESPN.com. WXOS, WXOS HD1 East St. Louis, 101 ESPN is driven by Brown and Krugman Law Firm. You can now watch 101 ESPN live on our Air Alliance Team Studio Cams. Catch every show live on our YouTube channel or at 101ESPN.com. 101 ESPN Studio Cams.
Presented by the Air Alliance Team Heating and Cooling. Getting the job done quickly, correctly, 100% of the time.
Alongside Alex Ferrario, I'm Brandon Kiley, and we're happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by Keith Law. He's the senior baseball writer over at The Athletic. He actually had a piece drop earlier today breaking down the NL Central and the draft reports for each and every team across the division. Seems relatively high on what the Cardinals were able to do in this year's Major League Baseball draft. Keith, appreciate the time as always. How you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Doing really well. From the 30,000-foot view, how would you describe the Cardinals' haul that they were able to get this year with all of the draft pick availability that they had this time around?
Yeah, I would say it was a good sort of quantity, like more quantity maybe than quality, in the sense that I think Tegan Kuhn's, of all their players, was the only one I had ranked as a true first-round talent coming into the draft. However, they got multiple guys who I ranked on my top 100 and several other prospects who are sort of note, are interesting, have a chance to be at least good big leaguers, maybe in extra roles, bench roles, but a chance somewhere to be regulars. And there's probably 6 to 8 guys in their draft who I could describe that way. They had extra picks, they had extra money, and I think they made pretty good use of it.
Keith, I read a couple of different places just after that draft dust had settled that the Cardinals came up with multiple steals in the draft. So I don't know how you'd label that a steal, but how many did you view that the Cardinals came away with?
I wouldn't call any of their picks a steal. Yeah, I'm just scanning through their list. That's really bizarre that anyone said that. No. And I mean, I like their draft. I don't know that they took anybody. To me, a steal is if you take somebody that I had ranked 15th and you get him at the 50th pick or something like that. And I don't think they had anybody like that at all. I mean, I don't know. Maybe people are arguing that Rocco Maniscalco, the second rounder, is some sort of steal.
That's the one that I've seen most often, Keith.
Yeah, that's just people who are out of touch. I'm sorry, nothing against you, but people who are saying that they're not talking to scouts, clearly. Because Maniscalco ended up in the second round because he had a horrible spring. I mean, he just did. He went back to his high school. He's 17. He reclassified to the age of a high school junior, experience of a high school junior, but it was his senior year to get into the draft sooner. And he was punching out a ton against high school pitching, including at a couple of events, one in his hometown of Hoover, where he was playing good high school competition. But still, you can't strike out 6 times in a day in high school and have people still want to take you in the first round. Now, that creates an opportunity for the Cardinals, who I think looked at him and said, this guy's got first-round ability. If he were 18 and he'd stayed in the draft till his actual graduation year, when he still would have been on the younger side, actually, and gone out and then performed, he's a top 15 pick in the draft. So maybe that's the perspective, but there's a lot of hypotheticals there. And I think the Cardinals are going to have to take it pretty slow with him. He may spend next year in the Florida Complex League, where he'll be 18. He'll still be plenty young for that. He's not the sort of send him out to high A next year like Trevor Condon, the first rounder, where you think he's got a chance to go hit low A pitching in his first full season in the minors.
Let's talk a little Trevor Condon, the first-round selection for the Cardinals this year. I think some here locally were a bit surprised by the selection, but what was your reaction when you saw that name paired with the St. Louis Cardinals, and what kind of a player are they getting in the future, hopefully center fielder?
I think part of it was trying to view Condon on in a vacuum instead of considering him in the entirety of the Cardinals draft. Condon was, I think, around 41st on my board, so not a first rounder, but not far from it. If he were the best player they had drafted, or potentially, I guess, the best player they drafted, I would say it was a little disappointing for the 13th pick, but not a huge issue. However, in the entirety of the whole draft class, getting Kuhns, getting Maniscalco, and then rolling the dice on some other guys later, it does make more sense to me. Condon, I think, is probably a leadoff profile in sort of his best case scenario. He's got good field to hit. He's got a pretty good idea of the strike zone. He does have good bat speed, but he's not super strong, and I don't know that he's ever going to hit for a lot of power. I think what you're hoping for is center field, strong on base percentages, steals a bunch of bags, maybe it's 10 to 12 homers at his peak, which is a very good player, clearly. Maybe it's not the most exciting upside, but the Cardinals also do, and this obviously they changed scouting directors this year, but I think going back several years since to around when Randy Flores took over, they do value up the middle defense, and Condon provides that.
Do you view any specific area, Keith, whether it's the pitching side of it or the position player side of it, an upgrade to the Cardinals system after this draft?
No, I think they balanced it really well. Actually, I wrote up about 7 guys from the draft class, a couple guys from really everybody through the 6th round, I think. Might be a few more guys than that. And then the college right-hander Jacob Haley they took in the 11th round, who I believe is going to sign and who is kind of interesting. He's a former two-way guy who hasn't really stayed consistently healthy, but in the 11th round, you're just sort of like the expectation is 0. You're just taking a flyer on a guy with a really good arm. But they balanced it really well. I mean, I think the whole portfolio of picks take everybody together. They got some hitting, they got some pitching. Took a couple of high school guys with some ceiling, took a couple of college guys, maybe a little less ceiling, but we have a better idea of what they might be, and they can move faster through a system. When you have extra picks, to me, that's kind of an ideal way to approach it. You're willing to take a big swing on it, no pun intended, on a Maniscalco. And if it doesn't work out, you've probably got several other big leaguers in your draft class to make up for it.
Keith Law is joining us here on 101 ESPN. Keith, I would say the highest touted pitcher that they got in this class is Tegan Kuhns, who they got in that 2nd round. What did you think of him, and how does he compare to the Tennessee guys they took a year ago with Liam Doyle and Tanner Franklin?
He's different than both of those guys. In this case, in Kuhn's case, the one thing I guess he's similar to Doyle in that it's a very high quality fastball, right? It's a fastball that misses a lot of bats. Both guys were 4-seamer, top of the zone, big ride, miss a lot of bats. I'd say that's about where the similarities end. Kuhn's main secondary pitch is a plus curveball. Doyle's been in search of a breaking ball, and Franklin's kind of a different animal because he was a reliever in college, and they're making a starter out of him. It looks good so far, but he's going to take more time. Whereas Kuhn's right now, I think if Kuhn's were, he's not going to pitch because obviously they shut everybody down. But if you took him right now and sent him to Peoria, he would pitch extremely well. He'd miss a lot of bats with those 2 pitches alone. I do think he's going to have to either improve his changeup or try a splitter, which the Cardinals are very open to doing. So he's got a real third weapon to get lefties out. Generally throws strikes. This year, the big difference between previous year, he was a sophomore this year, between freshman year and sophomore year for me was location and command. He wasn't just trying to dominate guys in the heart of the zone, which you can do in high school in Pennsylvania. You can't really do in the SEC. He did a way better job with that. I think he's a pretty good athlete too, at least enough to be able to make a lot of adjustments on the mound. You hand him to the Cardinals player development group, I think you're going to have a real 3-pitch guy, mid-rotation upside, and not in the too distant future either.
So when you look at their draft class this year, Keith, and you combine it with what they did a year ago in the draft, this is basically the first 2 drafts of what I'll call the Chaim Bloom era, where Bloom was already inserted into the mix a year ago. You had Rob Cerfolio here. Some of the development staff's been in place. Have you noticed any trends over the last couple of years on what kind of profile they're looking for or what traits or tools they seem to be prioritizing? Is there anything that's developed in that regard for you when you look at the players they're taking?
I would say it's more about the player development changes that I don't think they've drafted substantially differently. They might be going for a little more risk and reward on the pitching side, less so on the hitting side, because under Cerfolio, you're already seeing pitchers develop quite a bit more than they did prior to his arrival. And that opens you up as, Zach Mortimer, first-year scouting director, really tremendous scout too. He's opened up way more now to taking pitchers who, like I said with Kuhns, right? He needs a third pitch. I think he's going to get it. You can hand that guy to player development and say, here's what we see that's positive. Here's what we think he needs, and player development can say, all right, here's the plan. They did that a year ago with Doyle. Doyle's breaking ball was always a question. It's not that he couldn't spin it, but he didn't find one that particularly suited his arm slot, his arm speed. Actually talked to Doyle very briefly before the Futures game on Sunday, and he walked through sort of what he feels most comfortable with, but he's still trying, it's 2 or 3, depending on how you classify, different pitches. One of those is going to end up an above average weapon for him, and I really believe he's going to be at least a number 2 starter for them. That's unthinkable 3 or 4 years ago, right? They're not doing that kind of pitch design, mapping pitch types, two different pitchers, arm speed, arm slot, etc. Like, it is a way more cohesive process behind the scenes. And that does mean you can take guys like him or a Dawson Monteza from West Virginia, who I also really liked, but who I think needs to get stronger, needs to be able to work more through a long season. West Virginia overused him too, but can show you enough feel to spin the ball that, again, him, Mr. Folio, if you told me a year from now he's got a plus slider or plus sweeper, 0% surprised.
Keith, one other pitcher I wanted to ask you about was Cal Randall, who I saw multiple people talked about his fastball and how it was one of the best in the draft. And then I saw that the Cardinals could move him into a starting role, obviously, down the road. Just give me a little bit on Cal Randall and what you see from him.
Yeah, well, it's the good and the bad, right? He's got an incredible fastball. It's 98 to 100, and it misses a ton of bats. 36% of the time this spring, the hitters swung at his fastball, they missed. That's extremely high. He also basically only threw the fastball. So, I comped him to the Tanner Franklin situation. College reliever, could this guy start? Why not try it? To me, there's no downside to doing that, because at least taking a guy who's a present reliever, who you think might even be a reliever in the long run, but having him start in the interim allows you to control when he pitches, manage his workload a little bit better, and force him to use other pitches. If you're trying to get him to develop a second or a third weapon, well, if he's got to face a lineup even twice, he's going to have to find different ways to get the same hitters out. And that is a way to force a guy to work on a breaking ball, to work on a changeup, or split, whatever you decide the extra pitch is. The odds are Randall ends up in the bullpen, of course, because that's what he is. And there is some effort in the delivery now to throw 98 to 100. He's going to have to decide probably to pitch more. I'm going to just speculate. It might be 94, 96, because he's got to pace himself to try to throw 70, 80, 90 pitches in a game. But I see no reason whatsoever not to at least try this, see what it looks like. And at worst, if you decide he doesn't have the 2-3 pitches to be a starter, you just put him back in the bullpen and zip him to the majors.
If you'd like to see more on what Keith Law has to say about the Cardinals draft class, or really every draft class across Major League Baseball, you can do so over at The Athletic right now. He's joining us here on BK and Ferrario. Keith, as we expand the conversation a bit to the Cardinals' current prospects that are already in the system and we've been able to see work their way through the minor leagues, I do want to get your impression on some of these guys. In particular, we've seen an uptick with Quinn Matthews recently, the Cardinals' left-handed starter at AAA. His velocity seems to be regaining some of its form from a couple of years ago. The strikeouts are up. Walks are starting to decrease lately. What do you think the Cardinals have at this point in Quinn Matthews?
I mean, I'm a bit of a skeptic. It's a tough delivery to repeat. He's already had some shoulder issues. We haven't seen consistently even average control from him in pro ball, which was not an issue for him in college, really. He was a pretty good strike thrower. He was sort of a changeup first guy who didn't throw quite as hard. He was overused the moment before they ever got their hands on him. So I'm not saying the Cardinals have done anything wrong whatsoever with him. He may be more of it might be a 5 and dive type where you've just got to use him on real limited pitch counts, or he's the guy you bring up to be, whether you call him your 6th starter or not, but you're trying to space him out to give him extra time between outings. But like before the last 2 outings where he was really good, right? 4 walks in 5 innings, 3 walks in 4 innings, 4 walks in 5 innings. Yeah, there's a lot of that that I'm afraid that might be what he is. And that means even if you're missing a lot of bats and maybe limiting hard contact, you're probably a limited duration starter. You're 5 innings, twice through the order, and then you're just out. That's fine. As long as you don't have 5 starters like that, that's great. You can have 1 or 2 of those guys at the back of your rotation.
Do you have a starter outside of Liam Doyle in the Cardinals system that gets you excited?
Well, I mean, I mentioned Franklin, and I do think he's just going to take time because he was a reliever while he was at University of Tennessee. Obviously, most of these guys were starters in high school, so it's not like they've never done it before, but they are trying to build a real pro starter out of him, whereas in high school, I'm sure he could just blow guys away with pure velocity. Why would he bother throwing anything else? I also am not by any means giving up on Urangelo Cincha, who obviously they got in the trade this offseason. Hasn't been a great year on the surface, but I think for him, he was a switch pitcher in college. And a lot of the time, even though he's definitely should not be a switch pitcher in pro ball, but that meant he didn't necessarily have to work on getting left-handed hitters out while pitching as a right-hander. And I am sure that has been part of the issue, just learning to pitch just exclusively, almost, I don't think, has he thrown anything?
A bit. It's been more rare.
Bit.
Yeah.
And it's been bad. Yes. Okay. This checks out then, right? He's faced 22 batters all year while pitching left-handed. The correct number for that, by the way, would be 0. I would just never, ever let him throw left-handed again. It doesn't work. It's not good. He's not throwing enough strikes. It's not good enough. And I think it is just a matter. He's so athletic. The velocity so easy. He's just going to need probably a little bit more time. Let him spend the whole year in AA. He's got to spend most of the next year in AAA. That's also fine. There's 4 pitches in there, and I'm talking just about him right-handed. He will need to improve his control, command and control, but it starts with control to get there. But I still think this guy's got a chance to be a mid-rotation starter. It just may happen a little bit later than we thought.
Keith, final one for me, and I remember, I think it was a couple of years ago, we had you on, and we were talking with you about the Cardinals pipeline, and you said, the Cardinals could go out there and acquire anybody they want because of what they have.
4 years ago now. That was when they had Walker, Wynn, all of those guys.
Yeah.
That wave coming through their
Now,
system.
they're not in the same position to where they would go out there and trade for anybody right now, Keith. We know they're kind of trying to rebuild that pipeline, but do you think they have pieces in their system that are getting them to that point to where if they wanted to make a big league move to go out there and get a guy to upgrade their ceiling, could they do it?
They're getting there. Yeah, I'm just looking at their list. I'm not even considering this year's draft. You can't trade those guys till the winter. But there's catching depth and there's pitching depth. Those are 2 things that are pretty valuable in trade. And maybe that's this offseason rather than now. They don't have a lot of other position player depth beyond those guys. Those, the primarily the 2 catchers in particular, right? Rainiel Rodriguez and Leo Bernal. A lot of pitching depth there. A little lighter on the position player side. That will not be true if we are having this conversation in December. And you can talk about trading some of the guys they just drafted. Not that I'm saying they should, but they will have more position player depth beyond just catching at that point. I like the direction of the system. I think it's absolutely on the ascendant. I think it's a top 10 system in the game. That's going to continue to get better, particularly I want to see where we are a year from now or 9 months from now when this group they just drafted shows up in spring training and we get to see some of the changes that player development has started to make with them.
Alex is done. I got a couple more for you, Keith, and we'll get you out of here after that.
Sorry, Keith, I was keeping it quick.
Here on 101 ESPN. Keith, you told us prior to J.J. Weatherholt getting the call up to the big leagues this year that he was going to be a stud. You had no real questions about him as a player. He's going to be a good player in some capacity at the major league level, and he's going to hit. He's done all of that. They reward him with the contract. I want to ask you about another guy that we've had a lot of questions about, which is Jordan Walker. He's had his breakout this year. He just won the home run derby. He's been incredible to watch, but it's really 1 year of production. If you were in Chaim Bloom's shoes, would you be willing to approach Jordan Walker either now or this offseason about a potential contract extension? He has 3 years left. Arbitration begins this offseason.
Absolutely. I'm all in. I'm absolutely all in, not just because I watched him win the home run derby the other night. It was very interesting to have him come back from behind to beat Schwarber. Never heard a park boo that loud before. I'm glad he had a great reaction to it. I think there's more to come with Walker. What you've seen is a tremendous breakout. I believe it's real. I believe that the power, the hard contact, that stuff's all still going to be there going forward. I believe he will continue to improve his swing decisions, improve his approach at the plate, and that a year or 2 from now, it's going to be prohibitively expensive to try to lock him up. So I would do it now. And yeah, there's always risk, right? There's more risk with locking him up than there was with Weatherholt. Weatherholt, I'd be surprised if Weatherholt ever has a single year where they regret giving him that contract, even temporarily. Whereas with Walker, there's downside risk, right? And which we've seen the last couple of years. But I think the hard contact and the power are absolutely here to stay, and that there's still growth ahead of him that will make a contract that they give him now a really good investment for the team.
Do you think Walker and Weatherholt could be the 2 best players on a championship contending team, position player wise, setting aside what you need pitching wise for that?
Yeah, I don't think that's unreasonable, because I think both guys are going to get better from what you've seen this year, right? If I didn't think they were, then I would say the answer is no. But I do think in their case that you're going to see them both continue to improve, whether it's next year, the year after, but over the life of a contract, or in Walker's case, till he hits free agency.
Last thing, we'll get you out of here on this. Appreciate the time, Keith. If I told you Dustin May, JoJo Romero, Lars Nootbaar, those 3 players, May, Romero, and Newt, keep or trade at the deadline this year, how would you end up going with those three players in particular? Not knowing, obviously, it's difficult without knowing what the offers are going to be, but assuming there's reasonable offers that could come your way.
I couldn't trade Dustin May fast enough. 2 Tommy Johns, shoulder issues. It's a rough delivery. He's always had great stuff. He's never stayed healthy for all that long before. So I absolutely would be shopping him. Romero second, just because the value of relievers is so volatile. The performance of relievers and the value is so volatile. And then Newt Barr, I'd be open to trading him, certainly. But he's still got a chance to be a regular. There's obviously a huge platoon risk issue with him, but I think there's enough chance of him becoming a regular and staying a regular. Maybe a year or two from now, they have a surplus and they say, okay, we can part with one of our outfielders, but I'm not in any way rushing to trade him. I would be much more like, hey, if you want to blow me away with an offer, great, always open to it. But right now, he would be, of those three, the guy would be by far the least interested in trading.
Keith, always enjoy the conversation. Appreciate the time as always. We'll be reading you over at The Athletic, and hopefully we'll be talking with you again soon.
Yep, my pleasure.
Thanks, Keith.
That's Keith Law. Appreciate his time as always here on 101 ESPN. Really appreciate him hopping on with us. Listen, Keith knows his stuff, and Keith is opinionated, which is why I like having Keith on.
Oh, yeah.
You can have a difference of opinion with Keith Law, and that's okay. Like, if you think that, one of the prospects that they signed from this year's class is going to be a superstar, and Keith Law thinks he's just going to be all right, guess what? One of you might be right, and we'll find out over time. But I really like him because he's unafraid, and he's been in those rooms where they're making these decisions, and so he brings that
and he talks to the scouts.
Yeah, and he brings that experience to the conversation.
There was some reaction to how he reacted to my first question about the steals in the draft, and I didn't take any offense to it because I'm gullible. I read an article and I'm like, well, yeah, hell yeah, they got multiple steals, and his reaction was what I want to hear.
He might be wrong. Yeah, they may have had, according to other scouts who he didn't talk to, 4 different steals in this year's draft, right? So it's good, in my opinion. It goes back to what I said earlier today. I'm consistent on this, even if you people disagree with me, which is fair.
Whoa, you people, you need to chill over there. Jeez.
I'm consistent on this. I like hearing differing perspectives on things. And Keith has one perspective. There are other articles that have had certainly very different perspectives on the Cardinals draft. I find a couple of the things there at the end quite interesting. He said he's all in on Jordan Walker and couldn't get a deal done fast enough with him.
He thinks it's going to get better from here, which...
And said that he believes Walker and Weatherholtz could be the 2 best position players on a championship contending team. Do you guys feel that way? With what we've seen this year, do you think if the Cardinals continue to build this thing, they get the requisite pitching, they supplement it, do you think those guys can be the 2 best players, rather, on a championship contender?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, I look at, take the Dodgers out of this conversation. You go through some of the teams that have won championships with the position players. I think they always have a guy that has a ton of slug and a guy that is just an MVP candidate and another one that is in the conversations of one of the toughest outs in Major League Baseball. I think of when the Nationals won it, right? When Juan Soto was the big piece there, but you had multiple other pieces that were with them, but a 1-2 punch that includes a guy like an MVP and Weatherholt? Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
No, the dynamic has changed now because you're looking at, you're evaluating a guy you project to be your middle of the order linchpin, slug baby slug, right, into Jordan Walker. And when referring to J.J. Weatherholt now, in his rookie season, guys, he has exceeded expectations in each and every way. He not only gives you the quality at-bats time after time, but the well-rounded nature of what he does. Already an elite defender in year 1, mind you, at second base. When you're talking about all of those different facets, how could you not be excited about the prospect of 1-2 for years to come?
Pretty incredible, given where we were as recently as, 3 months ago, and how we were feeling about this team.
But what we said all along was find the big bat, find the MVP, and then you'll put yourself in a driver's seat towards what you're trying to succeed with. And I didn't expect it to be Walker. I thought we were going to be spending about 3 to 4 years searching for that person. But the fact that you got him right now, and Keith Law, who I do value his opinion, thinks it's just going to get better from here, that's the guy, and I stick to it. I know it's a risk. I'd lock him up.
Yeah, I get it.
If he's willing to listen, I'd say let's have the conversation.
I would probably do it as well. I would be I would have a lot more heartburn, and I'd be taking some medicine.
God, I would be downing a bottle of Tums while he's signing the contract.
He's coming around.
I would do it nonetheless. Alex is one of the best Blues analysts in the business. The Blues have announced their 2026 schedule. We'll get into that coming up here in just a little bit. And we heard from Detroit Red Wings fans earlier today. You guys want to hear from some England fans, England supporters after their loss yesterday against Argentina?
Why wouldn't we?
We'll do that next here on 101 ESPN.
We want to hear from you. Use the Scott Lee Mic Drop feature on the 101 mobile app. Give us your opinion on anything St. Louis sports with a mic drop.
Brought to you by the Scott Lee Heating Company.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan.
3 University of Missouri alumni and proud partner of the Mizzou Tigers. The Bruning Law Firm delivers for injured clients statewide. See why 1,500 clients gave Bruning 5-star reviews. Are you backed by Bruning?
ESPN Sports Center.
Save those dates for marquee matchups. I'm Bradford Bruns with a Sports Center update presented by Universal Windows Direct. As announced minutes ago, St. Louis will visit Dallas October 2nd to kick off the 2026-27 NHL season. New Blues Mason McTavish and Connor McMichael, among others, draw Colorado one night later than Chicago before hosting San Jose October 8th. 101ESPN.com has your complete list of opponents online right now. Tomorrow, the Cardinals battle their first second-half foe. Second place, Arizona won 4 straight pre-All-Star break. Baseball actually returns from those Midsummer Classic festivities this evening, spotlighting Mets, Phillies. Elsewhere, Cincinnati extends young ace Chase Burns 7 years, $105 million. Your Sports Center update was provided by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
This is exactly where you want to be listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Good stuff from Keith Law of The Athletic. If you missed any of the conversation, check it out on the podcast page after the show today. 101ESPN.com and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
Don't get too mad about what he says in the first 10 minutes of that conversation. It gets better as we go along.
All of them just rolling in. Keith Law, Tool, I hate this guy, can't stand this guy. People don't like tone, Brandon.
I know.
Think you'd figure that out by now.
He said the thing that makes you not feel good as a Cardinals fan, where he's like, hey, they didn't get a great pick here. It's just pretty good. It's about quantity, not quality. And so I get it. And then he talked about how, hey, not really thinking that Quinn Matthews is going to be a great starting pitcher as well.
That one irked some people.
Yeah. Differing perspectives. It is what it is. All right. So, Alex, the Blue schedule is out. You said low-key love this schedule. Why? Well, is that from your perspective or is that from the Blues perspective?
No, I said this from my perspective because personally it's not a whole lot of back-to-backs. I think they only have 1 month where there's multiple sets of back-to-backs. 16 of their 19 games that are played on the weekend are all 6 o'clock or earlier. So I think that's fun for a lot of people to have early games on the weekends. And then for me personally, you got an afternoon game on Halloween. You got an afternoon game on New Year's Eve. I'm off on my daughter's birthday. There's not a lot of Wednesday games when my daughter plays soccer. So for me, I'm like, damn, this is a good schedule. Now, for the Blues, a little bit of a different feel on that one. October is going to be rough. Like, that's the first thing I looked at. The fact that you open up with back-to-back games on the road against Dallas and Colorado, welcome to the NHL, big boy. Like, that's not, like, there's a legit shot you're going to start the season at 0-2. And people will see, same old Blues. Man, when you start with those two teams, that is not a cupcake to begin the season with. Gets a little bit easier, but like of the, I think it's 14 games or 12 games that they play in the first month of the season, Dallas, Colorado, San Jose, Minnesota, Nashville, Winnipeg, Vegas, Carolina, Montreal. Like those are all playoff contending tough teams. And I mean, that's 8 of the 12 games that you play to start the season with. So for a team that is going to put an emphasis on having to come out of the gate hot and not start slow, October is going to be rough. But I will say this, if you can finish October with an above 500 record, you're sitting pretty because that's tough. November gets a little bit more easier for you with the home games and the schedule and who you play against.
I have no takes on the schedule. I wish I did, but I don't. I have no takes
cool.
on this.
Well, that was a lot of fun, guys. Let's move on. Brandon doesn't want to talk about it.
I don't have any opinions on who they're playing and when they're playing them. I will have opinions on what they do when they play them.
Okay. Well,
I wish I had more. I'm glad you do.
STL Sports Takes right here. Hot takes.
I will say this. As somebody that goes to a decent amount of games because my son is obsessed with hockey, 16 of the 19 home games on Saturday or Sunday start at 6 p.m. or earlier. That's nice. 22 total weekend home games this year. 3 on Fridays, 11 on Saturdays, 8 on Sundays. Yep. Those are all the games that are the most sought after among Blues fans, so they are more expensive as tickets, but that's also great for people that want to be able to go to some games.
I will say that's a trend that I noticed, at least for the Blues, like with an 84-game schedule, they put an emphasis on more weekend games. And I think that's great for the fan base to be able to have, what did you say, 22 Friday, Saturday, Sunday games?
Yep.
22 of your 42 home games are all played on the weekends. That's you're going to have a ton of sellouts again. I do like the structure of this, though, with 84 games where you're adding 2 of them and you've got that all-star break in there. It's not a overloaded schedule, which last year with the Olympics, now 3 weeks is different than 1 week, it was a very jam-packed schedule. So this spreads it out a little bit more. I think it's going to be a fun season looking through some of these matchups. And again, personally for your boy, not a whole lot of 9 o'clock starts until the last 3 of the last 5 games are all on the West Coast, 9:30 starts. Don't talk to me in April. Unless they're in the playoffs, then we can have a conversation.
You ready to hear from some England supporters?
No, dude, I want to talk more about the schedule. I want to go piece by piece. Let's talk November now.
If you've got anything else on it, I'm happy to hear it. I, again, have nothing more. We got 4 minutes on that, which was more than I expected.
Actually, more than I expected, too.
You'll be able to get all of this. You'll be able to hear it right here on 101 ESPN, your home of the St. Louis Blues.
Every one of them.
Where are you going to be able to watch it? I don't know, but you can hear it right here on 101 ESPN.
We also should have stated that, the first time we get to see Jordan Kyrou is on November 28th.
Oh, there you go.
Which is a home game. Boos or cheers?
He'll get cheers. It's St. Louis.
He will get cheers.
Oh, I think he gets cheers. I don't think he gets boos.
Yeah, it's St. Louis, man.
Best fans in hockey, am I right? BFIH.
That's right. Okay, England supporters, quite upset. I don't know if you watched any of that match yesterday, Alex, the game yesterday, whatever you want to call it. It was quite entertaining. And boy, England blew it. They blew it.
Steve's an Evertonian. Morning, Steve.
Morning, Steve. Morning, Steve.
Good morning, lads.
Morning, mate.
So what do you make of it all, mate?
Jeff, let me have my normal rant, please, mate.
Off you go.
Come on, mate.
All the managers we've had, when we get into the situations where we have to make the big decisions, they fail. Yeah, there's only one and only in this World Cup after task last night against Argentina. And for 72 minutes, we were great. And then all of a sudden, he makes error after error after error. Why change the way we're playing? He waved the white flag. He is not the man, Jeff. He is not the man. And to top it all off, us as England and as a nation, we had us on the edge of our seats, and everyone can see it. Even me dog who's watching it, and he's blind, and he can see what's happening. You just knew they were going to score a goal. And that was it. Every one of them lads give everything.
Yep.
He shook the life out of us. Get him out of our team. He killed us as a team, as a nation, and he made us look weak. And that's one thing we're not. As a nation, we're not weak. If we get beat, at least go down dying on your sword. He surrounded him. The German. He is to blame.
You done, Steve?
I'm done, Jeff.
Oh, good luck.
Thank you for having me on, Jeff.
Pleasure, mate.
God.
Now that's wearing it.
I understood about 7 words in there, but my God, is that hilarious.
I
think he went in a little Scottish. He went a little Scottish on there a couple of times. Like he switched some accents in there.
Agreed.
Can we get that last little bit there, Bradford?
Are you done,
the last
Steve?
5 seconds. Yeah. Are you done, Steve?
Are you done, Steve?
I'm done, Jeff.
Good luck.
Thank you for having me on, Jeff.
Pleasure, mate. You done, Steve?
You done, Steve?
Just the perky nature of, all right, I'm done now. I'm good.
That was amazing. Even me dog's blind and he saw it wasn't going to work. That Cockney accent with the English, oh, God, it's so good. I love it.
It's fantastic. This is via, by the way, Talk Sports up in the UK. That was a fan
really
calling into the station. This is a host on said station.
All right, cagey affair. We go 1-0 up. Be brave. Be brave, Thomas. This is what we brought you in for. We brought you in for this moment. We got rid of Southgate because he bottled it, because he weren't brave. We brought you in for now to make that decision. We're 1-0 up in a World Cup semi-final. Bring on Rashford. Bring on Saka. And if they score, they score. But at least we're going to go down fighting. At least we're going to go down with some pride. We fell out of the World Cup in disgrace because of him. Because of him. And we brought him in for this job. This is what we brought him in for, to get us over this line. And it's the same old England, same old crap.
Australia, Alex.
Same old guff. I have to watch every tournament that we're in. And it's the manager's tucked us up again. Tucked us up. I can't believe it, Jace.
Well, no.
Jace, I can't believe it.
No,
it's a disgrace. He should be sacked. Get him out. Gone.
I totally agree.
That's like what T-Bone and I are like with you when you go on a rant. We're just like, and you interrupt. And then you're up. All right, man, I just agree. Can we move on, please? Also, he channeled his Russell Crowe from South Park episode. You're fighting. You gotta go fight. You're fighting around the world.
It's so rare that I get to that level, Alex, as a fan.
It's happened. It's happened for me too.
What are games that got you there where you said to yourself, like, I can't hold it in any longer. I just have to rant for the next 2 minutes.
Mike Matheny going to Michael Waka in, what was that, 2013, 15? Against the Giants?
Was that, I think that was 15.
It was 15 because the Ishikawa one. Like, everybody saw that one coming. That pissed me off so much. I mean, let's not go any further than, April of 2 years ago when
14.
It was 14. Okay. April of 2 years ago or last year when the Blues couldn't literally stop a puck from going in with 1.2 seconds left. I think.
I don't feel like we were there though for that. It was frustrating, but I don't feel like we were there.
I was there that night on postgame.
I thought you said I thought your reaction to that was it was a good season. This sucked.
It was. I guess I wasn't there, so that's fair. But
you know what I mean?
There was a lot of frustration to the sense of you should have won that. So it's fair.
Course.
I wasn't to that level. It's fair. I'm trying to think of other ones that got me pissed off.
The 13 seconds game for the Chiefs versus the Bills, Donnie was there.
Oh, yeah.
Donnie was there. Chiefs versus Bills for that one. The game where their kicker blew it, where they missed the field goal against the Chiefs again in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Donnie was there. That's the kind of thing that I'm thinking is, like, it's an all-in season. This was an opportunity for England to win the World Cup. Like, they had a chance. If they just hold on against Argentina, they are playing in the championship game, and this is everything for them, right? So this is, to me, like, Chiefs losing to the Bengals in the playoffs, that was a game that got me there.
Yeah.
They had no business losing that game. I could not believe that they found a way to lose it. When I was young, Chiefs, I think this was 2003, if I'm not mistaken, go up against the Colts in a playoff game. They punted. The Chiefs punted 0 times in said playoff games and lost to Peyton Manning in the postseason. That was a game that got me there. Now, I was a child, so I was also just overly emotional in general.
No.
But that's another one. Mizzou versus South Carolina. Missing the field goal off the post. Yeah, that one got me there. Mizzou versus Norfolk. That one I was just in disbelief, honestly. I couldn't fathom what I had just witnessed, but that one got me there. Mizzou versus... God, I'm trying to... South Carolina, like what, recently?
Yeah.
Where they found a way to lose in the final seconds of the game, and I was watching it on my phone as a father of the bride had 20 minutes for a speech at the wedding that I was at that night.
That's the one I thought you meant a couple of minutes ago, yeah.
God.
Yeah.
A lot of Mizzou games come to mind for me.
Yeah.
How about that 2001 Super Bowl for people in this area at that time? You went into that contest. You were heavily favored as the Rams against the Patriots, against then first-year starter Tom Brady. Yet you fell into a 17-3 hole going into the third quarter, yet you outgained this team. This behemoth of an offense had outgained the Pats by about 200 yards. You tie it up, and then Lovie Smith, bless his soul, you decide to go full prevent. New England marches down the field, and then 3 words, Adam bleeping Vinatieri.
Yeah, 2000 playoffs when the Blues won the President's Trophy and you lost to the Sharks in the first round. And it was 2018 when it came down to the final game in the regular season. This is the one that I think I was most pissed off about. It came down to the final game in the regular season, Blues versus Avalanche. Blues needed to win to get into the playoffs, and Tarasenko got hurt in the first period, and the Blues just basically went into a shell and didn't show up the rest of that one. That one, I was probably to this point where I'm like, where's your heart, Thomas? Have some pride. Where are your heart, Thomas?
From the 636, when Mike Schilt brought in Alex Reyes for that wild card game against the Dodgers, I feel like everyone knew that home run was coming. 100%.
In the World Series,
100%.
In the World Series where they kept pitching to David Ortiz.
Yep. That one for sure. A lot of people on the text line saying, BK, it sounds like you just need to stop watching Mizzou. I wish I could. Yeah. I made my affiliation. That's my squad.
Marcelo Zuna, when he climbed that wall for that fly ball.
Yeah, that was funny.
I don't think that was very funny in the moment. I think afterwards it was funny, but...
But it wasn't like I don't feel like that one qualifies for this.
I think I was pretty pissed off.
Really?
Yeah.
To this level? Was that a playoff game?
I thought it was a playoff game, wasn't it?
Believe so.
That was a playoff game.
Okay. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that was a playoff game.
I don't think that rises to this level because you didn't have championship aspirations.
Well, they did. They sold us that there was.
Yeah. Somebody said, BK, how much did you know about the Blues before moving to St. Louis? Are they really a thing in KC? Not much. Just full disclosure. No, not much. We didn't watch hockey growing up.
I mean,
wasn't a thing
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It is what it is.
Yeah, I've been open about that. Listen, man, I'm learning this game with the rest of you guys, but yeah, I watch it as much as anything now because my son's obsessed with it. But yeah, I didn't grow up watching hockey. That was not my
Alex brought up on the text line the series against Chicago and the Kings when the Blues were up 2-0 in the series. I think, and I know Grant Francis is listening right now. He texted me a couple of times. I don't remember if it was the Chicago or the LA series, but it was in that early teens window that the Blues just ished the bed where they were up 2-0 and like just completely went into a shell against them.
I'm trying to think of other ones that would, like if you're a Cleveland baseball fan, that 2016 World Series has to be up there. The rain delay, and you find a way.
Oh, yeah.
Because we talk about that from the Cubs' perspective, right? Of how special of a series that was for them and how special of a moment it was for them. Imagine being a Cleveland fan on that specific day, or a Golden State fan as you're going up against the Cleveland Cavaliers and Draymond Green kicks somebody in the groin and you find a way to lose. Like, that's pretty rough as well.
Grant said it was Chicago, and now my day's ruined. Thanks. Well, live it, big boy. You got this one. Were there any roster decisions that got you that angry? Not games, but roster decisions.
Ooh, good one.
Because, like, I don't think I was that angry with
Matt Carpenter, the bountiful harvest.
Extension. Oh, yeah, that was a good one. I don't think the Pietrangelo one got me that pissed because I think I justified it as a fan that Petro didn't want to be here.
I mean, when the decision happened, trading Tyreek Hill. Yeah, I mean, you saw my immediate reaction.
Yeah, we were on the air for that one.
The immediate reaction in 95 when the Blues shipped Shanahan to Hartford for Pronger at that time. Oh, that was not received well.
Well, Stevens losing in that arbitration case. I remember people were pissed about that. Now you got Shanahan in it. Pronger being traded away. And that wasn't at the Blues. It was more at the ownership that wasn't willing to spend to keep him.
I think a lot of people had that reaction toward Albert Pujols when he left.
Yeah,
it's different, right? Like, it's not the team doing it. It's the player leaving, but you're furious because, like, this was supposed to be your guy, and then he ends up going elsewhere.
Sure.
I think the Michaelis extension had a lot of people feeling that way.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of others recently that felt that way.
People were pretty pissed when they fired Schilt. Yeah, the Rosarena one.
It was extremely unpopular.
When Schilt was fired, I think that's where people were at.
Yeah, I think the individual games, though, get you there a little easier.
Yeah, and it feels like it's not so much regular season as it's playoff season.
It's playoffs, and it's you should have won.
Yeah.
Right? Because England should have won that game. They were up. They decided to park the bus way too early. They're going up against the greatest player, arguably, in the world in Messi, and he does Messi things, right?
Nice.
And you find a way to lose. And I think that's the part of this that, like, it almost requires you blowing it. Like, 2022, game one against the Phillies, I think that qualifies here. That's one of the most stunning defeats that I can recall. Everything had to go wrong, and everything did go wrong for the Cardinals to lose that game. I have no idea what happens after that if it doesn't go that way, but it felt like such a pivotal moment in recent Cardinals memory. Where if they win that game, they may go on to win the series. Might, I don't know, but may. And if they do, man, how much different does the Goldie Arenado era feel if the Cardinals advance in 2022? And God only knows what they would do from there. They could have advanced beyond that.
Yeah.
Because isn't that the year that the Diamondbacks ultimately... No, it was the Phillies. It's possible you could have gone on a run. And if you do, it looks completely different. It feels completely different. And Ollie is viewed completely differently because then he doesn't, in a lot of people's minds, screw up the first playoffs.
Is Arenado still here at that point then?
Maybe.
He's viewed in a different light as not a guy that can't perform. I think you're fine with everything that goes on.
Yeah,
and what does the team trajectory look like in that perspective?
Does Quintana come back, right?
Yep.
Like so much could have been different, but it wasn't.
Still, though, all of what we just said, nowhere close to what we just heard on an England fan.
No.
I mean, they were irrational. Also, I'm going to start ending things with Brandon when he goes on a rant. Be like, are you done, Brandon?
Tell you.
Are you done, Brandon?
Coming up in about 10 minutes, how will the new wave of Major League Baseball general managers impact this year's trade deadline? We'll get into that in a bit. The junk drawer is next.
You done, Steve?
It's a weekend MLB doubleheader Saturday. Yankees and Dodgers. First pitch at 7:08. Then Sunday it's Game 2. First pitch at 6:20. The MLB plays on 101 ESPN. They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Open it up. The Junk Drawer is presented by Bet365. With Bet365 early payout, you win even if they lose. Get paid out instantly when your team goes up big, even if they blow the lead later. Bet365. Winning is everything.
I'm uncomfortable by this, Alex.
I love that.
I understand the use. It's probably a good idea. I'm highly uncomfortable by it.
Something with a plane?
New report from NYUp.com. Upstate New York School District will deploy humanoid robot teacher this fall.
Nope.
They will not replace teachers. But what this is it's an AI assistant where if the kids are doing, like individual work, they can get help. It's effectively like a Chat GPT kind of thing, but for teaching, where a kid can say, hey, I'm child 6524. Here is what we talked about yesterday. And the teacher can be like, the robot, quote unquote teacher, can say, hey, we were talking about this yesterday. Let's continue the conversation on that, and so on and so forth.
Nope, hate it.
Product is $60,000. That's for the district, according to the contract and what they spent.
No, that's $60,000 could go towards the teacher's salary. No way. Absolutely not. That's trash to me. I don't need a robot walking up to my child and have it as a number and helping it with a question that it has. I need a teacher who has spent their entire career working towards this, that knows what they're doing, that knows how to work with children. They're the ones that are in charge. That's a trash move, and I am not okay with it.
How's the robot going to finesse, certain behavior-related concerns as well?
So I think
can't teach that.
Alert. My understanding of this is a teacher will already be in place. Like, the teachers aren't going anywhere. This is just a second asset within the schoolroom.
So it's like an accent piece on your roster.
There you go.
Well, I'd like to ask
it's
teachers.
Complimentary to the teacher. I get how this could be valuable, right? Like, think back to when you were a kid. You know how they always said there's no such thing as a stupid question? Not true. Kids in your class would make fun of you if you ask what they deem to be a stupid question. In this scenario, because you don't have to necessarily have anybody else hear it, you could ask what is deemed by fellow cohorts to be a stupid question to this, AI teacher, and it might help you understand things better. So I can see the use here. I get it. Also makes me highly uncomfortable because of what you guys said. It feels like a potential replacement method down the road for teachers. Don't love that. And also, just in general, I am, you guys know this as much as anybody, highly suspicious of all of this AI stuff. I go into this stuff not expecting it to work, and I think generally speaking, it's borne out that way.
BK's Fanny Pack says that apparently the Riz Show said it's the same company that used to make sex dolls.
Sure. That's like, remember Tom's Shoes? Aren't they making something different nowadays?
Making something in the adult industry?
Come again?
No, it's not Tom's.
Is that how Bradford did it? When
God, what was it? What were the shoe? Allbirds, Freebird, Allbirds.
Freebird is a Lynyrd Skynyrd song, and my wife saw it at the brewery.
Allbirds used to be a shoe company. They're now doing different stuff now.
Is it sex dolls? Because I don't need a robot teaching my kid that was once in sex dolls.
They pivoted to AI.
Yeah.
Where it used to be a shoe company, and now they just make a bunch of AI stuff.
Evolve or die, right?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not on board with that one. The moment that happens is the moment I have to probably lean into homeschooling. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that a robot is going to, even if it's an assistant, I need a teacher helping my kids.
Somebody said, great, so kids will no longer be made fun of.
They'll still get made fun of. It's just you're actually probably going to get made fun of more. Now you're not only asking a stupid question, but you're asking a robot a stupid question.
But it probably won't be public, right?
You still have to ask it, so people are still around. They'll hear it. Well, I don't think you're going to a private section of the room to ask a robot a question.
I'm guessing it's all via text.
Well, the robot still has audio, though. The robot's still going to come over to you and
I think it's all it's a robot through the
So
phone.
now I got
or
a cell
tablet or
phone while I'm
something.
in class?
I'm guessing it's a tablet of some
yeah.
kind.
I mean,
that would be my assumption.
I know this is where it's headed, but I'm
not positive on that.
I'm so out on that.
I don't know, man.
That's why I don't ask the robot at Schnucks for help. I'll find it my damn self.
Oh, that.
I ran into it the other day when I was
Schnucks
using the
great.
cart.
I love Schnucks. We
I do
go
too.
there for groceries.
My go-to.
You can't tell me that thing makes sense for them. I refuse to believe it. I've never once seen that thing moving around and it be more effective or efficient than just a worker who's there doing the exact same thing.
Tally's a little devious.
Mercy, God bless you. Appreciate everything you do. You helped us deliver our son. Mercy Hospital's fantastic. There's no reason for the robots that they have at Mercy.
I didn't even know there were robots at Mercy.
Absolutely. They're walking the halls and everybody
Really?
Everybody that I've talked to that works there says they're stupid and completely unnecessary.
I didn't know that they had those.
How
The
many
robot
robots are we
Schnucks-
talking?
I turned the corner last week when I was grocery shopping and I ran into the back of it and I'm like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah, they're everywhere, man. They're everywhere.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
It feels a lot like we're looking for a use for this thing that we've been able to develop.
Yes.
And we're not totally sure what that use is going to be or how companies can profit off of it just yet. And we're going to keep trying until we can find that use. And we're going to spend billions upon billions of dollars to be able to get there. That's a different show for a different podcast.
What better area, though, or climate atmosphere than our nation's classrooms? There you have it.
There you
That'll
go.
be the politics podcast that we do.
Alongside Alex and Bradford, I'm BK. NFL Quick Hitters in 15 minutes. Next, how is the next wave of Major League Baseball general managers going to impact this year's trade deadline? We'll talk about that next here on 101 ESPN.
The Redbird Report, your front row seat to all things Cardinals. From the dugout to the diamond, BK and T-Bone go deep with the latest news, notes, and analysis. Watch the Redbird Report on YouTube or listen online at 101ESPN.com.
Hey, it's BK for my friends over at Victory Men's Health. Check them out today online at victorymenshealth.com. When you get over there, you'll be able to read about all that they have to offer. They've got great services like testosterone optimization, weight loss, sexual health. They can get you in on some of their red light therapy programs. They've got cardiovascular testing. I know some people are super in on some of the pre-diagnostic stuff. They've got some of that available for you. Ask them about it at Victory Men's Health. Check them out today. victorymenshealth.com is where you can go to get started. You book that first appointment online. Incredibly easy process to do so. Put in your name, email, phone number, tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and then tell them what it means for you to unlock your inner champion. That initial visit is going to include a consultation with a licensed medical provider. They'll find out where all your different levels are at, and then they'll put together a personalized plan for you. Guys, if I can do this, you certainly can. 4 great locations across the St. Louis area. It's time to unlock your inner champion. Do so today at Victory Men's Health and victorymenshealth.com.
picture. The real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Alex, one of the secrets of the All-Star Game is it's just an ability for everybody in baseball to come get together in one common meeting place.
And be bored.
A lot of people get to have conversations around this time of the year. So when you're an insider and you're at a game like this, you talk to, fellow general managers, players, all different kinds of people. And sometimes you can glean information out of them. So here's Ken Rosenthal earlier today on Fair Territory on where he believes the Cardinals are headed in the second half.
The Cardinals, on the other hand, are one game out in the wild card race in the National League. They're 5 games over 500. I don't know that they have enough pitching to, 1, make the playoffs, and 2, win a playoff series, but it's not as if they can sell here. They need to at least try to supplement what they have.
He thinks they're going for it. Do you feel that way as we enter the second half of the season, Alex? Is that your current outlook for them?
I didn't until Ken Rosenthal said that. I mean, Ken Rosenthal is somebody that I know has connections and talks to everybody involved. No, I mean, my assumption, and it has been for some time now, is I think they're going to sell. I think they're going to look at the assets that they have and say, let's get something for these guys because they don't play into our future. And that's May, Romero, and I wondered about Riley O'Brien. Lars Nootbaar, to me, is kind of that fence one to where I think they could sell him, but I also think they may look at that as an offseason move like Brendan Donovan. But no, I looked at this as May goes and a couple of bullpen arms go. And
Stanek?
Yeah, I could see Stanek. I think they got some righties that could fill that spot. I think Romero is somebody because he's a lefty and because he's had closing experience. And Riley O'Brien, we've talked a lot about. But I think those are the areas that they move on from, and then you replace it with other pieces in your system.
Do you think there's anybody the Cardinals could move on from, realistically speaking? I mean, they're not trading J.J. Weatherholt or Jordan Walker, obviously. But within realistic outcomes that they could trade, that Cardinals fans would look at it and say, that was a bad decision to move on from that guy right now. Like individually, I'm not saying all of these different guys, but who is there a player
Lars
that immediately
Nootbaar would probably be the one.
You think so? Do you think?
Just because, and not so much moving on from him, because it would be the Baez replacement. I think people would be excited. I think when fans would see the return from Lars Nootbaar, they'd say, well, that was a mistake. You should have moved him in the offseason. Without knowing what the offseason could provide you. I feel like that would be the response with Lars Nootbaar. But I also could see a portion of the fan base see Nootbaar being traded and saying, good, you got rid of him for something now.
It's funny because, I think the only players that Cardinals fans, my perspective at least, would be upset to. So I don't think that they will anyway.
No, I don't. Well, and that's the thing. Like you just listed off all that. I don't see any scenario where any of those guys are moved. So
the guys that I just mentioned, I agree.
These are fringe pieces that I think people are actually probably wanting to move rather than hold on to.
How do you think Cardinals fans would feel if they traded one of Matthew Liberatore or Andre Palante and replaced him with Quinn Matthews or Hunter Dobbins?
They'd be excited. Which seems weird to say, but I think Cardinals fans are more invested in the future than they are the right now. And so you trade Andre Palante and tell fans we're putting Hunter Dobbins there, they'd be like, cool, I get to see Hunter Dobbins as a consistent starter. You trade Dustin May and put Quinn Matthews in that spot, it'd be like, awesome, I get to see what could be the future of our rotation.
And Lars Nootbaar is for Joshua Baez, for example.
Yeah. I think people would love that.
Jojo Romero, you get to see Bryson Mott's probably coming out of the bullpen at that point. I don't think fans would be overly upset about that.
I don't either.
Chaim Bloom's in a really unique spot. Now, I view it differently. I don't think they should do those things that I just mentioned. But I think that a rational Cardinals fan, and most fans I think are pretty rational this year, I think a lot of fans view it a little differently than what Ken Rosenthal just described there, where they can't sell. I disagree with that. I think they can, and they can get away with it. I think this is the one year where you could.
I agree.
It's the transition year, and I think if the same thing happened next year, people would be upset. But I don't know that I view it that way right now.
No, I'm 100% with you. I think if this was Mo doing it, I think people would be livid because people would be under the assumption that you're still trying to win, and they'd be like, you don't know what you're doing. But because this is Chaim and because this is his first season, I 100% agree. I think this is a, hey, do what you want. We trust you from what you've done so far this season.
Okay. The other thing that I wanted to get to, Alex, was a piece from over on The Athletic. I thought it was a really good article, and I highly recommend checking it out. It's written by Ken Rosenthal. It's a joint piece. Ken Rosenthal, Patrick Muni, Katie Wu, and Will Salmon. 4 insiders in Major League Baseball for The Athletic. And the title is Blockbuster Summer: Why Buying and Selling at MLB's Trade Deadline is More Complicated Than Ever Before. And it's a really long piece. It's lengthy, but it describes the transition that's taken place among Major League Baseball executives. And this has been happening for about a decade now. But I think at this point, the transition is basically complete. There are not very many old school, quote unquote, general managers that still exist across the game. I mean, you look at it, I guess you could say like San Diego, Seattle, and maybe New York in terms of the Yankees. I think those are probably the 3 places that still feel kind of old school in how they go about the transaction game. Most other teams, though, are extremely cautious when it comes to making deals, whether it's at the deadline or in the offseason. And that's why it's so hard to make these deals nowadays. Yeah. Everybody wants to hold on to their prospects, and they don't want to give up their major league talent unless they're getting big-time prospects. So prices are high, and the willingness to meet those prices is not particularly likely. How do you think this could influence the Cardinals at this year's trade deadline?
I think they pounce on that. I think they view this as, well, if nobody else is going to sell, we're going to sell, because we're not setting the prices high for these guys. Now, set Lars Nootbaar aside, I think they'd set that price high, but I think they view it as Dustin May. If you could give us something that's going to beat out what we'd get if we didn't re-sign him this offseason with the qualifying offer, then let's talk. With Jojo Romero, if you can give us something that benefits our pitching staff in the future, then let's talk. Whereas other teams, like you mentioned, like Detroit, we're not going to sell Tarek Skubal unless we get a massive offer. Or some of these other teams like, Colorado or the Athletics or the Angels that have controllable pieces, we're not going to move that unless you give us something that's going to make us better sooner. I don't know if the Cardinals are viewing it that way. I think the Cardinals are going to be like, look, if you're going to give us something that's going to benefit us, even if it's 2 or 3 years from now, let's talk, because it may not be a part of our team after next year. Maybe that's an asset to go get something. I just think the Cardinals are going to view this as, I know we're a team that's in the playoff race, but we're also a team that has a lot of what people will want that's not out there on the market.
You mentioned Dustin May. How would you feel if he accepted the qualifying offer?
Which would be $20 million?
22-ish.
Nervous, but I would understand.
And I'm saying as a Cardinals fan, like if we get to the offseason, they decide to hold on to him at the trade deadline, they hit him with a qualifying offer, it's a little more than $22 million. That's what it was last year, so you'd assume it will go up from there. And Dustin May says, you know what? I'm accepting it. I'm going to go ahead and take that $22.5 million, lock it in. It's a weird offseason, CBA negotiations upcoming. I don't know where my future is going to be. I don't want to have to wait 4 months to be able to decide. I want to lock in that guaranteed $22.5 million contract. And then next offseason, I go into the winter and I won't have that qualifying offer attached to me because the Cardinals can't then place it upon me 2 years in a row.
Then I can sign as a free agent.
Right, and I can go anywhere without any kind of draft pick compensation attached to me. Yeah. And there won't be a CBA negotiation taking place in the backdrop. So if that happened, how are you feeling as the Cardinals if you know that's a likelihood from Dustin May? Do you still give him that qualifying offer if you think he's potentially going to take it?
Probably. And I guess I was premature by saying nervous because I'm under the belief, and you are as well, like I don't think a one-year deal can hurt you. And that's essentially what it is. It's a one-year deal for $22 million. And if they didn't move him, that tells me that there wasn't anything out there via trade that was going to benefit them from the perspective of the Cardinals. And I don't think it's a bad thing to have Dustin May on your roster for $22 million for one more year so that you don't have to rush your prospects in the pipeline to get to the major leagues. And guess what? Because when I said nervous prematurely, I was worried about the injury. But man, if he gets injured, that's just a runway for one of these guys to take over and potentially just be the starting pitcher for the future. And then Dustin May becomes an expendable piece at the deadline. So I don't know if there's a downside to it.
Yeah, and the main question doesn't really revolve around the quality of the stuff, right? We have seen that. We have actually been able to bear witness to it, but rather the number as stated, $22 million, can you bank on anything remotely close to 22 starts? Before this season, this guy had only been able to make more than 10 starts in one campaign.
Yeah, but does that hurt you? It doesn't, like if he comes back at $22 million and let's say he only makes 10 starts, does that hurt you?
No, it's the what if factor. I mean, you'd be paying for, in essence, a handful plus of starts, but it depends on how confident you are then in the next layer, basically, of guys available to you coming back either from injury or progressing through AAA.
I would assume at that point you're pretty comfortable with your pipeline or where you feel like it's going to be at the major league level. And that's the part for me. It's like if he gets injured and starts 10, yeah, I'm paying him $22 million. But I wasn't going to spend that elsewhere this offseason, and he's gone after this season.
That's my view on it as well. And I've seen a lot of people say, like, you can't bring him back for $22 million. Why not? What do you currently have on the roster that's precluding you from doing so?
Jordan Walker, pay him.
Yeah, sure, I'm totally fine with that. You have $15 million in guaranteed money going out next year. $15 million right now. Now, there's arbitration cases that will add to that number, certainly, and it will continue to rise. But $22 million is fine for Dustin May. I've got no issues with that whatsoever. A bunch of people on the text line asking, guys, isn't there a mutual option for him next year? There is. My guess is one of the two sides will decline. I don't know which one, but I would guess one of the two sides. In this scenario, let's assume it's Dustin May who declines the mutual option. And he tests his market and said, because the first thing that happens is the decision on that. And then the Cardinals make the decision as to whether or not they want to place the qualifying offer on Dustin May. The reason they would do so is twofold. One, they think he's worth $22 million. Two, they think there's a chance he declines it, in which case they would get a comp pick for him, similar to what they got this year that they traded for in the Brendan Donovan
Which
deal.
is typically in the mid-30s,
range.
early 40s, yeah.
So you get a top 50 selection in the event that he goes on to sign for a significant dollar figure elsewhere. Dustin may say, I'm probably not going to get that figure elsewhere, so I'll just go ahead and take the $22.5 million guaranteed right now, given the looming lockout for Major League Baseball. So there's a lot of different factors that go into that, but to just walk through how you would end up in this scenario, that's what it would be. It would be a few different decisions that all lead to the same results ultimately. Last year, Merrill Kelly signed a 2-year, $40 million deal in the offseason to come back or to sign with the Arizona Diamondbacks. I don't think Dustin May right now is a significantly worse pitcher than Merrill Kelly was. I think the going rate for mid to back end of the rotation starters, it sounds crazy, but it's the reality, is roughly $15 to $20 million a year. And if you can get that on a 1-year contract, I think that's totally fine. Mm-hmm. And this is the backdrop to the decision at the trade deadline, Alex. The reason that I'm bringing any of this up is because you have to weigh what you're getting for Dustin May at the trade deadline this year against, one, that comp pick, which is a top 50 overall selection, or two, having Dustin May back next year at $22 million. Which of those three routes is the most valuable commodity for you? I think it's option 2 or 3, which is why I probably wouldn't get myself to the place where I am trading Dustin May. I find Matthew Liberatore and Andre Palante to both be more intriguing trade deadline options for the Cardinals than Dustin May personally.
And then that would make even more sense to keep a Dustin May around if you can move one of those pieces, because now you got the replacement there and you're replacing Dustin May's spot for one of the guys in your pipeline. So you're opening up a spot.
He's Alex. That's Bradford. I'm BK. NFL Quick Hitters is next.
Get social with 101 ESPN. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads, Blue Sky, and YouTube at 101 ESPN.
right back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
I could watch videos of Englishmen reacting to the World Cup loss all day long.
Every time I hear it, I think of, have you ever seen the movie Euro Trip?
Way back in the day. I mean,
so like when
20 years,
when they're on the bus with those English guys and like they're all just getting so freaking rowdy over it and they're like yelling and then they go to the bar with them and they're smashing beers over their head. That's what I think of when I hear that.
Numbers are in for Netflix's Home Run Derby, the least watched over the last 20 years. Not surprising.
No.
It was on Netflix.
I also I feel like they didn't promote it on Netflix that much.
I don't really know how you can.
I don't either, but like I found myself that night, like an hour before, I'm like, where's the home? Because I turned on Fox, I turned on ESPN. I'm like, where's the Home Run Derby? To where like in the past, it feels like when there's something that big, it's like Netflix.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how I think that's going to be something they have to figure out is how they advertise for this. Because if you are going to have these events, like the Christmas Day football games, for example, if you're going to have them on your streaming platform, you're going to have to upgrade or increase the exposure because most people don't have your platform. Like, as much as we think of Netflix as something that everybody has, a lot of people don't have it. And so the access just isn't there. And so that's why I would expect these numbers to be lower. That being said, it's not all that much down from what it was on ESPN. It was 5.3 million viewers last year. 2024 was at 5.4 million viewers. So all things considered, I'd say that's a win for Netflix.
Yeah.
If they were getting somewhere in the same range as what the Home Run Derby was when it was on ESPN.
Yeah, I mean, I think the product was awesome. Everything that they had with it. I just don't feel like the promotion was there for it. So now I wonder what it looks like next year where it's on Netflix. Because I feel like people went to ESPN like I did and didn't see it and said, where's it at? Netflix? Oh, I don't have a subscription. I'm not going to do that.
No. I think that happened.
Now the hype for it is like, damn, that was a really fun Home Run Derby. Next year, everybody's going to be there for it.
Alongside Alex and Bradford on BK. All right, let's dive into some NFL quick hitters. Let's start out with this. ESPN.com had their ranking of the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL. Have you seen the list yet, Alex?
I have not, even though you're going to claim if I nail this that I did. I promise I have not looked at it.
Any guesses on number one?
Ooh,
best wide receiver, according to this ranking in the NFL for the 2026 campaign.
So my gut would tell me it's either Justin Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb.
Ooh. One of those players made it into the top 2. The other one is not represented in the top 5.
He fell a bit.
Okay, so Justin Jefferson, I'll say, is the 2.
Correct.
CeeDee Lamb is the one that fell out of it. Which,
correct.
God, I would disagree with that. Okay, so Jamar Chase is 1?
Jamar Chase is number 1. So it's Chase at 1, Justin Jefferson at 2. They happened to play college together. I wonder why that team was so good. Number 3.
I would say Amon-Ra St. Brown here.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is number 5.
Okay. I already was told CeeDee Lamb's not there. Are you've seen it, Bradford?
I have.
So you're not making any guesses, and I feel like the lone shark here.
This one feels pretty obvious to me, based on last season's exploits.
Thanks a lot, jerk.
Sorry.
I don't know, man. I'm out.
Jackson Smith-Njigba is at number 3.
Damn, I'm an idiot.
Puka Nacua is at number 4.
Okay. Stay out west.
And rounding out the top 6, Alex has already guessed, Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb at 6, and then I believe there's kind of a teardrop after that. George Pickens at 7, Nico Collins at 8, A.J. Brown at 9, Davante Adams comes in at number 10.
Damn, Davante Adams is still on there.
Davante Adams is indeed still on the list.
At
Other guys that were listed as honorable mentions include Mike Evans, Zay Flowers, Drake London, Jamison Williams, T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, etc.
I'd like have 4 of those names before I'd have Davante Adams on that list.
I think that's fair, honestly. My biggest complaints about the list, like what I would just personally change, I would have Puka higher. I think Puka's unbelievable, man. I know JSN had the more productive season last year. He was amazing. I've got no criticisms of Jackson Smith-Njigba. I think it's a pretty clear cut to me, 1-2 with Chase and Jefferson. I would have Puka at number 3.
Yeah.
I think the guy is incredible. And if I could trust him off of the field, you could make a pretty strong case for him to be the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL.
It's crazy because it's a stacked position because I can make an argument to have CeeDee Lamb at 4 or 3 just because like when he is on, he is the reason Dallas wins football games.
That's where he was last year, pre-injury.
Exactly. So I know everybody talks about Dak, but I think Dak is made because of CeeDee Lamb. But again, who am I pushing down? Because Amon-Ra St. Brown is incredible in terms of possession. You're right, with JSN and with Puka. It's just a loaded position in terms of where you're at. So, that's a top 6 that I can make an argument for a lot of them being 3.
If I'm really looking for that perfect blend, I'm with you, BK, when it comes to that slight swap between JSN and Puka, because if you're talking about hands, if you're talking about really the matter of contact balance, how about yards after the catch? Nacua was number 1 in the entire league. The only question you have is whatever's happening off the field. When he's there, he's the guy.
To me, as I look at it, I feel like there is a pretty clear-cut tier 1 with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. J.J. Jefferson.
Who's J.J. Jefferson?
Number 2 tier is just Puka. Tier of his own, I think he belongs in that category. 3rd tier, I would have JSN, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and CeeDee Lamb.
See, I'd put those 3 in there with Puka.
Really?
Yeah. I think those guys are difference makers, just like Puka's a difference maker. Even if I think Puka's a slight edge over them, I still think they're difference makers, the same with Puka.
Tier 4 to me, I've got Nico Collins, tier of his own. And then after that, I would put in Terry McLaurin, Garrett Wilson, and Chris Olave.
I think I'd put Mike Evans in that tier.
Sure.
I know he's injured a lot, but I think I'd put Mike Evans in.
I'm just going with basically the Ohio State guys. Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Terry McLaurin.
How do you like Tyreek still being an honorable mention when he doesn't have a team?
Crazy. Not only doesn't have a team, I have no idea what he looks like or if he's going to be able to play football in 2026.
He's 32, 33 as well at some point.
Yeah. He doesn't have a team, and you can't sell me on he's still the same guy that he was 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
I saw it with Miami when he was on field that there was not the same type of effect in the game.
I do think there are as many elite level wide receivers in the game right now as there have been in as long as I can remember.
I agree.
I think Chase, Jefferson, Puka, JSN, Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, and Nico, to me, that's 7 guys that if you had them as your number 1 wide receiver, you have every opportunity to be among the elite of the elite.
Yeah, I agree.
Your passing game.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it speaks to where the league is at because running to me is not as effective as what you have with these wide receivers and the differences they can make unless you're a running back that can catch the football.
Who's making that jump next season? If we're talking about it 1 year from now, is it a Malik Neighbors perhaps? To me,
I'm worried about his knee.
Yeah, I don't trust that.
I don't know what's going to go on with that knee. He might have to have another surgery. Good question. Like the JSN level bump.
Or a run below.
Does A.J. Brown get that if he goes off and has a run with Drake May? Because for the longest time, he was viewed as one of the best receivers in the game. And then, of course, they stop using him, and you go with Drake May.
Yeah, I could see something like that.
I'm trying to think of other guys. Jamison Williams, I feel like could, but because you play with Amon-Ra St. Brown, I just don't know if you'll ever get that volume.
Will the hands be there?
Yeah.
I wonder about Terry McLaurin. If you get a full season with that offense and all of those guys are healthy this time around, Terry McLaurin, I think, gets underrated a lot. A couple of years ago, a guy had 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns. What if he just reverts back to that and has 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns this year?
Yeah.
We could look back and be like, God damn, that guy's a top 5 wide receiver in the league. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the last 7 years at that point. He would have had more than 1,000 yards. I think you could make a pretty strong case that McLaurin is the guy that could make that jump. I know he's not the young guy that you would typically expect, but kind of similar to the A.J. Brown range, where he bumps back up after a
I could see
season.
that.
Stealth pick, Ted McMillan, maybe year or two.
Yeah,
I just don't trust the quarterback.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to have a quarterback that I believe can take you to that next level.
Somebody on the text line, artificial unintelligence, Rome Odunze. That's a great mention.
Especially because they got rid of DJ Moore.
Because he'll be their number 1 wide receiver. Somebody else mentions Luther Burden. Yeah, I think the Chicago guys could be good ones. Somebody else mentions Emeka Egbuka. I could see something like that as well.
What about anybody in Jacksonville for how good Trevor Lawrence was last year?
Could see it. I mean, maybe Parker Washington.
Yeah.
Washington just comes back and it's like, oh my God, that guy's a special player.
He supplanted Thomas down the stretch last year.
Anybody with Cleveland?
No. Nope. I mean, if you want me to be real, I don't think it's happening. But like, what if Rashee Rice just comes back and looks the way that he did 2 years ago prior to the injury and is This is the part that's hard to believe.
I did hear that
it is fine off of the field as well.
I was going to say, I do.
And rehab went well while he was in jail.
I was say I did hear that jail rehab was pretty extraordinary.
Alongside Alex and Bradford, I'm BK. Coming up next, the Cardinals have announced a new giveaway. I don't know how much Alex is into giveaways. This is one I think he might want to get to the ballpark for. We'll get into that. And are you fearful at all that they become the second half version of what the A's were in the first half? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley, St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
Now listen to 101 ESPN On Demand. Get caught up on all our shows and podcasts at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 mobile app. 101 ESPN podcasts are presented by the Schaefer Door Company. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Blues visit Lone Star State on opening night. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your SportsCenter update is supplied by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The NHL released its 2026-27 regular season schedule today, and St. Louis will see a familiar trio of foes right away. Dallas comes first, October 2nd, then Colorado plus Chicago, preceding home game number 1 against San Jose. 101ESPN.com has further information for all 84 contests. Baseball second half action begins tonight with Mets-Phillies. Tomorrow, Ollie Marmol's Cards visit Arizona. Cincinnati, meanwhile, extends 23-year-old ace Chase Burns. Golf-wise, Jackson Suber's first round 65 tops that Open Championship leaderboard. This SportsCenter update was presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
This is exactly where you want to be listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Cardinals are putting in work on the promos right now. I'll give them credit for that. Alongside Alex and Bradford, I'm BK. Today, I believe, is your last chance to get tickets at 50% off. Coming off of the Jordan Walker flash sale after he won the home run derby. They've got 50% off of August games. So if you want to check those out, go to their website. It's a flash sale over there. They also, Alex, just announced a giveaway for the Friday, July 24th game against the Cincinnati Reds. This is a 7:15 first pitch. It is the second game back.
This better be good
after the All-Star break.
This is my bedtime.
It is a Jordan Walker shirt. You know how much I love shirts of grown men. Their faces on them.
Please finish this sentence.
Look at this shirt with Jordan Walker. It's celebrating his home run derby championship. If you want to check this out, they've got it on social media at Cardinals. I think I need one of those.
I'm a little disappointed in the Cardinals.
What do you mean?
I think that picture should have been him doing the money sign.
Oh, instead of the chain?
I think it should have been him in freeze frame like this.
I get it. It does say on it, they don't boo nobodies.
That's sick.
That's
sick. You missed the picture, but I'll give them credit on the idea, and you don't do boo nobodies.
I like it. Yeah. They've upped their game when it comes to promotions this
all
year.
Season long, I think they've done an incredible job of trying to get people back into the ballpark. Now, a lot of that's the team, but I give the Cardinals a ton of respect for how they've approached this season and getting people there.
Yeah, they've done a really good job with it. They've got a giveaway of the Victory Blues jersey on Saturday, July 25th against the Reds as well.
That's one I'm more likely to go to.
Really?
I love those blue jerseys. That one I just
pretty
wanted.
good, but I don't know if they compare to this one.
I think if that would have been him doing the money sign, I promise you, then I would be a lot more ecstatic about it.
They've got a Fredbird plushie giveaway.
Yeah, my kids
for
would
the
care more about
Sunday
that.
game
that
on
makes
August
sense.
the 9th. So they've got some good stuff coming up over at the Cardinals.
I tried to, because we took the girls, or I guess I just took a girl, because the other two didn't want to go, to a game, and we didn't get the chance to see Fredbird. We saw Fredbird on television during the home run derby. I think they showed him walking around the stadium, and I showed it. I said, you guys want to go to the ballpark and see Fredbird? And both my middle and my youngest went like this. No, I don't want to see that. So I'm like, I don't know if we're going to want to go see Fredbird.
I will tell you this, tickets to Cardinals versus Phillies, they've got the half off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm checking on these right now. Left field line, lower level seats. You can get them for $21 right now. On the lower level
and
is what I'm talking
for
about
the
here.
Phillies, that's a hell of a series.
Yeah, that's a pretty good price. If you want to go to a Cardinals game, I would check out this flash sale they've got going on with 50% off. Yeah, these are row K right down the left field line, lower levels. So we're talking like 15 rows up.
I think I might have
right
to be,
over by the bullpen area.
I think we'll have to be taking a trip to the good old ballpark for that one.
Yeah, I'm going to guess we're going to buy some tickets tonight over at the Kiley household.
Time to start spending some money.
All right, Alex. So I was listening to Foul Territory the other day, and they were talking a bit about some of the first half storylines. And one of them that they brought up was the Athletics. Now, you remember when the Cardinals played against the Athletics, one of our big takeaways was, oh my God, the amount of young talent that team has is kind of unbelievable. Like, they've got studs littered up and down their lineup. Langeliers, Kurtz, Soderstrom, and we made the comparison. It's kind of similar to what the Cardinals have seemingly built. Kurtz is for them what Jordan Walker is for you. Langeliers is for them what basically Ivan Herrera has become for the Cardinals. Soderstrom is their version of Alec Burleson, and then like maybe Geloff is their J.J. Weatherholt. So they've got a young core similar to the Cardinals. They have completely fallen apart down the stretch, Alex. In this, like the bottom half of the first half of the season, if you want to call it that, they were 35 and 35 through 70 games. They are now 15 games below 500. Do you have any fear for the Cardinals that they will have a similar stretch coming in them?
So a little more background on this. Did their offense disappear, or did their pitching just go to ish?
Atrocious.
And that would be the fear that I have that the Cardinals could fall into. Because if we're just talking about right now, do you think McGreevy, Palante, Leahy, and Liberator can continue an upswing on their pitching performance? And that's the part that I just don't know. Like, I look at the pitching for the Athletics, and yeah, it makes sense. Severino's basically out for the rest of the year. They DFA'd one of their pitchers, and they have some guys who have been good, but they just have fallen apart. Like, they've got one guy with a sub 3.5 ERA. So, yeah, that would be my concern, because your offense has been pretty consistent, and if you continue with Walker and Weatherholt, I think they carry you. But I just don't know my confidence level beyond McGreevy and Dustin May of what it looks like. And then the more those guys struggle, the more your bullpen gets worked, and we already saw what that looked like. So, yeah, there's some concern.
I don't have it because I think the Cardinals are more stable, but that's what you're trying to prevent, right? That's what you're guarding against if you're the Cardinals. And I think anybody that is skeptical of them right now, they would point to the A's and say, yeah, well, they looked pretty great as well as recently as a few weeks ago. And look at how quickly it can go south when you are built the way that the Cardinals are, the way that the Athletics are. And that's why you cannot hold on to these assets at the trade deadline, because at any point,
right,
if this thing goes south, you could end up with a top 10 pick again. Like, that's every bit as much in play as getting a playoff spot is for a team like the Cardinals.
But look at how that worked out already with J.J. Weatherholt. I'm not. Is anybody really opposed to another J.J. Weatherholt?
I'd be cool with it. Right now, you are, let's see here, 5 games back, or excuse me, 5 games back-ish of a potential top 10 overall selection. And you're 1 game back of a playoff.
The hard part to justify with that is, look at the teams behind you. Nobody's pushing you down to that. Like, you could go on an epic failure, but do you think that the Nationals or the Reds or the Giants are going to get any much better?
I don't know. Maybe.
See, Reds, maybe.
If you collapse, I think you could fall behind them. I don't expect the Cardinals to collapse, but if somebody is predicting that, yeah, I think they could.
Yeah.
If you do something similar to the Athletics. Like, the Athletics were in first place in their division as recently as, like, 3 weeks ago.
And I guess when you lose that many...
they're now a top 5 selection.
That's the other thing, too. I just don't know if the schedule allows the Cardinals to go on a 10-game losing streak. For what we've seen from them and how they rebound, I don't see how this team goes on unless massive injuries take place. Like, if a Walker injury happens or a Weatherholt injury happens or a McGreevy... then I guess you could start making that argument.
The Rewind is next here on 101 ESPN.
The weekend MLB doubleheader Saturday. Yankees and Dodgers. First pitch at 7:08. Then Sunday it's Game 2. First pitch at 6:20. The MLB plays on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Classic Air Care, heating, cooling, plumbing, and electricity, a company that has been making people comfortable since 1926, a company that has been taking care of my family's home for the last 30 plus years. And it comes down to just incredible customer service, technicians that have been doing this for 30 plus years that give you honest opinions on what needs to happen for your older HVAC system, or if you're just trying to maintain that newer system. They've got tons of different reasons why you use them for so long. One of the ones that I brag about with them is a free second opinion. So what this is if you have a company that comes out, checks the unit for you, and tells you, hey, you probably need to buy a new one, you can get a free second opinion from Classic Air Care by calling them. They'll come out, they'll look at it, and they will give you an honest opinion that they believe with, again, technicians that have been doing this for 30 plus years. But don't believe me, believe the 9,000 five-star reviews that they have on their Google Plus page, like this one from Barb. Travis was great, excellent customer service, showed us and explained what he did to help us out today. Very detail-oriented and helpful to his customers. Can't say enough good things about Travis. Call them today, schedule online, do me a favor, tell them Alex Ferrario sent you, Classic Air Care and ClassicAirCare.com.
They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Let's run it back with a daily rewind on BK and Ferrario. Brought to you by Gloria Lube, your home sold guaranteed realty. Selling your home begins at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
That's Alex. He's Bradford. I'm BK. If you guys missed anything from the show today, be sure to check out the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
It's pretty great. What I would consider myself to be the third least likable person to be discussed over the course of a show. And today, I think that was the case. I think Dom is below me. Yeah. I think Keith is below me in terms of the likability factor.
Hey, man, that's
a win for me, man.
That's pretty impressive.
He played the people a song, though.
That's pretty darn good. So I'll take it. I do hope that you guys check out, though, the interview with Keith Law from earlier today. I think it's well worth your time. All available for you on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, the free 101 ESPN app, and on YouTube at youtube.com/BK Facebook.com/101ESPN STL. Alex, new Last Minute Blues podcast coming tomorrow?
Doesn't sound like it. We're waiting to get a confirmation. No, you're fine. We were supposed to record one, but we were waiting to get confirmation. I believe we are going to have a Blues player hop on with us, an unknown player right now. We're waiting to find out, but they had to shift it to Monday. So we will have a new episode, possibly 2 new episodes next week for you of the Last Minute Blues podcast.
All right. Well, we will not have a new Redbird report.
So everybody's going to be missing
this week either, but we will have one for you guys next week. That means there's even more time to go back and listen through any of this week's BK and Ferrario episodes. Alex, before we get out of here today, I did want to get one final thought for you on the Blues. We didn't end up getting to this. We'll probably break it down a little bit further, but there was some news in the NHL earlier today. Cole Perfetti signed a new contract. He got an extension from the Winnipeg Jets. It's about $5 million a year. Or excuse me, $6 million a year, 5 years in total on that one. So $30 million total, 5 years, $6 million per. If you look at his numbers compared to Connor McMichael, it looks almost identical.
Yeah.
Do you think this is the framework for what a Connor McMichael extension will look like?
I do. And I think you get the comparable now. And now I think you're just looking, do we want to go 5 years? Does McMichael want to do 5, 5 by 6, 4 by 5? Do you go lower than that because you want to see what he looks like with the Blues? Maybe you go 2 years. But I think that's the starting point of like, hey, if you're going to go this length, you're talking about somewhere between $5 and $6 million, and comes down to what the Blues want from McMichael. But you're starting to see these guys slowly pluck off the arbitration list. I think you're going to probably see McMichael sometime next week fall into that camp.
We'll get plenty more Blues talk tomorrow. Certainly dive back into the Cardinals tomorrow as well. Appreciate you guys all tuning in today. For Alex and Bradford, I'm BK. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane is next here on 101 ESPN.
Even me dog who's watching it and he's blind and he can see what's happening.
You done, Steve?
Need more Blues talk? Check out the Last Minute Blues podcast with Alex Ferrario, Donnie Fandango, and Jeremy Rutherford on 101 ESPN. The guys bring you the latest news and notes on your St. Louis Blues. Watch or listen to the Last Minute Blues podcast on our YouTube channel or at 101ESPN.com.